Hello, my darlings. Have we had a day? I think we have. Welcome. Today is the first day of the Karen Reed trial, number 1. It is 2.0. And believe me, my darlings, right? It has just been crazy. So, no spoiler alerts because there are some people in here who haven't watched yet. It's been a day. Listen, I just want to tell you that I wanted to play my new intro for you so much. And the license that I bought won't release it. And it was guaranteed to be released on YouTube. And they hit me with a copyright. So I just demonetized last night's, and I'm going to get a refund and I'm going to fix it so we can play it. And I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now that's janky. When you buy a license like that, and then the owner steps in and says, "Nah, it's okay. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna just never mind. So sorry, we don't have an opening or an intro, but we have what's going on. So I want to ask you, since I believe most of you have seen it, I don't think there's a real reason to go over the craziness of Honk Breenan, unless you want to. But I'm sort of kind of thinking that I would like to see AJ's opener again. And did it really? Yeah. And this was a good, so what it does, it just makes it hard. And that stinks. But you know what? At least I caught it quickly, right? I disputed the copyright. It was after our live last night. I disputed the copyright, and tickety boom, here we are. So you know what? I'm going to unmirror my camera so maybe all of you can see the EVP. See the EVP back here? Maybe, sorta. No. Yes, there we are. I'm sitting in front of it. So there we are, my darlings. Okay. So now I think I would like to rewatch the opening with AJ. And I have it queued. And I think that we can do that. I think let's do that. And then you know what I would like to do? I would like to skip until we can get to Carrie Roberts and then play from Carrie Roberts on. What do you think of that? Because she was lying. This other firefighter, let me get my hat on straight here. Hello. This firefighter fellow, the whole case, they're lying. They're lying. And I want you to know that there is a significance, because I don't know if you've noticed, but they're all talking in threes. They repeated 3 times. It's like the old marketing location. Stop, drop, and roll. Things like that. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear. It's basically sticking with the subconscious to make you hear the rhetoric, because once you hear something 3 times, it sticks as truth. Did you know that? And each time you say something, you may be nervous the first time, but by the time you say the third, I hit him. It's a conviction. It tells the person who is listening, wow, they must have really heard it, whether they said it 2 times or whether they said it 3 times. They must have really heard it. Now, you know what this does? It shows one of 2 things. It is either a plea of innocence, which if Karen did say that, I'm sure it would have been, because I don't believe she said I hit him. I think she said, if anything, Did I hit him? That's way different. But then there's the other side of the coin, and that other side of the coin is a cover up. And 3 times it taps the ritualistic instinct that we know is either good or bad, or better or worse. In folklore, if a spirit or an omen appears 3 times, you're not supposed to ignore it. 3s are very significant. From the Trinity, raising on the 3rd day, we know that, to knocking 3 times, knock 3 times if you'll meet me in the hallway. It means it's a confirmation. It's a testimony in storytelling, and it mirrors the mystical laws of this is important, pay attention. That's why these people are doing it. That's why these people have so much to say. And that's why you hear it 3 times, because 3 times has a psychological value. Now, first, before we begin, my darlings, I want to welcome you to Seeing Crime and to, I guess I better point this way because I'm mirrored. I see me mirrored, but you see me the way I see me. I want to welcome Fate and Fortune with True Oracle. They are here with us, and if some of you would do me a really kind favor, because Miss D is over there. I don't want her sitting there alone. She is a wonderful mod. And she says, hey, love, I'm here just waiting on the Valo verdict. Good. Let us know what that is. I don't believe that's going to turn out very well for Lori Value. Value? Yeah, there won't be any value in that. Lori Vallow. So please let us know. And that was a case that I just really didn't touch. Those sweet children. Oh my goodness. I don't even want to go there. This one's bad enough. But 3 sticks in your brain. That's why when someone who practices, I'm just going to say it that way, they say it will come back 3-fold. See? It's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, my darlings. I'll tell you what, I was so tired today. I did not go to sleep until later. And believe me, the powers that be. So, there we go. Look at Cynthia. She said, excuse me, I practically got 0 sleep last night. You have to pardon my misstatements. Listen, I'm right there with you, my darling. Me too. I don't know if you saw my post, but I think at 2:00 this morning, I took a picture of my fan and saying, hello. Is that not hello? Does that look familiar? So I thought maybe everybody would get a kick out of it. But if you don't mind, if you could, thank you so much, Lil Misfit. Thank you. She's watching both channels. If I could just sort of kind of ask you to please watch both, that helps us. That helps us. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Look at this. Miss Jules gifted 10 memberships. Bravo, bravo. And thank you to all of those who are now new members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here you go. Here you go. Thank you very much for your generosity, Miss Jules. Thank you, thank you. And Jerry says she saw the fan. Uh-huh. There we go. Little B says, sorry, I am here, but I am so sick. Oh, I'm sorry. We're just going to all send you some very healthy and very good vibes for you, my darling. And believe me, the power of 3, Amanda says, is a big, big power of 3, esoterically speaking and otherwise. I want to welcome you to this channel because we've got a lot to deep dive and dig into. Couldn't sleep, but it's okay. It's okay. Laura B says she couldn't sleep either. That's okay. I look drained, and I did not even bounce today. I did a little bit of work, and then I saw the copyright thing, and I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna like take a big breath. So there you go. There you go. So thank you so much. Y'all are coming over there on that side. I appreciate you. All right. So here's what I thought I would do if it's okay with you. Because the less we get honks energy with around us, I don't know. It's up to you. If you want to go through the whole thing, that's fine. I was just thinking about going to AJ and then skipping and going to Carrie Roberts because she was the biggest liar. And I'm going to say that in my opinion. And then because I want to see that whole exchange with Robert Alessi and the judge. Order in the court. Order in the court. So I'm going to tell you, he was putting her in her place today. But I've got to say this. Alan Jackson, the surgeon extraordinaire, because he surgically removed the craziness. His opening statement was just so pristine. Hank lost me at hello. That walking around and telling a story and thinking that he's just going to captivate them. And no, go back to the old colony. Hello. Hello. Okay. I cannot wait for a cross, and I think that will help to prepare us for tomorrow. Jerry says yes. I can't wait for tomorrow for them to get Carrie back up where they're waiting for fireworks. That's right. Oh my. All right, so let me cue this. Make sure that we are A-OK. Big hugs. Look at this. Look at this. Big hugs, Zelda and inmates. Thank you very much. We are definitely held captive by this whole thing. And look at this. Hanky's dirty deeds. I know who this lovely guy. Look at that lovely smile and picture. I know who this lovely lady is. His entire timeline was wrong, right? 30 feet, going up 30 feet and then backing up 70. Doesn't that put her past the mailbox? I don't know. If this is any indication today, pardon me, of what is going to happen to Jennifer McCabe, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Let me cue up our sweetheart, Alan Jackson. Here we go. Now, I may have to stop this because, copyrights are a real thing. And we also know that, so I may have to talk just a little bit. Now, here's what else I'm going to do, my loves. I'm going to set up the EVPs. And we're going to let the EVPs rock and roll as AJ is awesome. Listen, isn't any wonder that I like men that wear suits who command an audience? Okay, enough is enough. All right, with that AJ stuff, here we are. Let me call you sweetheart. All right, let me get this up for my other sweetheart. You guys are my sweethearts. I'll tell you what, listen, I couldn't wait to come on here with you tonight. Is that like weird? Because that's very true. Okay, I think what we'll do here. Alessi, listen. Alessi is a mighty mo. Don't mess with him. Oh, here we go, my darlings. The truth is had already. Now let me get this adjusted so There we go. Can you all see it? Oh, hello? Can you see it okay? Can you see it? I want you all to be able to see this correctly. Amy, I did see that. I did see your list. Thank you, my darling, for sending that. That is definitely an EHA moment. I love it. Let me get you closer. Okay. Oh, for crying out loud in a bucket. Here we are. I hit a button and it all goes wackiola. All right, here we are. That's my ring light. If you see that, that kind of bothers me, but there's nothing I can do. Let me see. Oh, look at you, my darling. Look at this. Oh, I saw you today. I saw you today. I saw a lot of you today. I appreciate that too. Oh, this is not stable. Let me just fix this. Let me fix it. Because we need some stability. Let me this ring light thing is going to drive me there. All right, we're in business, my friends. We are in business. Thank you so much for letting me know. So tomorrow I'll know. I was in there with Miss Melanie today. But I don't say anything because I have to absorb what's going on. Yeah, voir dire is French. Like Gigi le Gold. There you go. Yeah, standing stones. I need a holder thingy. I do have a holder thingy, but it is too tall. All right, my darlings, here we are. Thank you so much, Deanna. It is. All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm all set here, I think. There we go. Now, we are going to start, and I'm going to cue in our buddy, AJ. If I were them, I would have something to be very happy tonight about. I'm going to tell you, it really bothered me today when they were explaining all of this about let me see what I can do here. Give me a second, my darlings. Aim is the first word out. Let me see what I can do to get this to fit a little better, so that way it's not so hard to see. No. Raster. Raster. I don't know what that means. Let me play with this for a minute, my darlings, okay? And now let me bring in okay, so love is the second one. I'm trying to figure out how I can get this attention. Wow. Okay. Hurry up here, Zell. No, we don't want to definitely do that. Okay. Back to the okay. Let me see what I can do, because I know you can't see it. Raster, Raster, worm. Worm is this one. You know what? I'm going to take myself off. Then we can see it. You'll hear me talking.
at John that night. And I did say her admissions that she told it. Like to play if you clip one, you're going to hear the first of the statements that she made after she was charged.
I mean, I didn't think I hit him, but
will show that. The evidence will show that. The evidence will show that. The data will show that. The science will show that. And the experts will tell you that. You'll learn that the Commonwealth has pinned its entire case on a brazen and a flawed assertion that is untethered, unconnected to the facts and to the evidence. And their assertion is contrary to science. Because at the end of the day, folks, there was no collision with John O'Keefe. So how did we end up here? How does Karen Reed end up sitting in that chair on trial for an event that literally never happened? Well, the evidence is going to explain it. And it can be summed up in the following text message at the very beginning of this investigation. A text message of a now fired Massachusetts State Police officer named Michael Proctor. He was the lead investigator on this case, and he was talking about a fellow officer, a fellow cop, who owned the property where John O'Keefe's body was found. Text message with a buddy. Question, is the homeowner going to catch any shit? Answer, nope. He's a Boston cop too. That quote defines the lack of integrity of the Commonwealth's entire case, its entire investigation, and this prosecution. During the course of this trial, you'll learn much more about Mr. Proctor, why he said that, and what it really means. What you'll see and hear in this courtroom in the coming weeks is not just a story of a tragic loss. And make no mistake, John O'Keefe's death is and was a tragic loss. But the story you'll hear is about an investigation that was riddled with errors from the beginning, a rush to judgment, conflicted, and corrupted from the start. Corrupted by bias, corrupted by incompetence, and corrupted by deceit. Finally, it was corrupted by a deliberate effort to avoid and to cover up the very truth that you are seeking. You'll find when you hear the evidence that the Commonwealth's case is the literal definition of reasonable doubt. They won't be able to talk their way out of it. They won't be able to explain their way out of it. They won't be able to excuse their way out of it. And they can't meet their extreme burden of proof, which the court will tell you is beyond any and all reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. Members of the jury, Karen Reed found John O'Keefe dead on the front lawn of a Boston police officer, Brian Albert, at 6 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Picture the scene. Blood-curdling screams, ambulances, emergency lights on, fire engines, ladder trucks, paramedics, patrol vehicles, patrol cruisers, police officers, first responders, firefighters, all swarming all over Brian Albert's lawn, literally feet under his bedroom window. Yet Brian Albert, a sworn peace officer, a first responder himself, never came outside. Never went outside to see what the chaos was about, never went outside to see if he could assist a man in need, never walked outside his house to see if he could help a fallen fellow officer on his own front lawn. More shockingly, you'll learn that lead investigator for the Massachusetts Police, Michael Proctor, never set foot inside Brian Albert's house that day. Never engaged in any investigation inside that house that day, even though a party with much alcohol
I want you to know that there are orbs in my hallway that I'm watching. So that means that the energy is off the chain. So you can hear my cat, Bilbo. He's in the hall looking up. And he never meows. It's never, never any meowing, never, nothing. Nothing. Here's the next word, fog. Okay, let's continue, my darlings. Let's continue.
Had just occurred in that house. And even though a Boston police officer was found dead or dying just mere feet from the front door on that lawn, he never secured the crime scene, never separated and secured witnesses. He never properly collected evidence. He never secured the evidence. He never searched for signs of a struggle inside or outside the home. He never properly canvassed the neighborhood. Michael Proctor never did any of these things. Even though fellow officers of Michael Proctor's actually mentioned, in their words, not mine, that it looked like John O'Keefe may have been, quote, in a fight. You'll have questions about that conduct. During the course of this trial, you'll find that the Commonwealth will not have answers. You'll see from the evidence in this case that this case carries a malignancy, one that is spread through the investigation. It's spread through the prosecution from the very start, from the jump. A cancer that cannot be cut out, a cancer that cannot be cured. And that cancer has a name. And his name is Michael Proctor. Now, you didn't hear his name in the prosecution's opening statement. Not once. And I suspect that was probably by design. But make no mistake about it. The evidence will show in this case that Michael Proctor is the very definition of the Commonwealth's case. And he's also their Achilles heel. He was the lead investigator on the case officer, the architect of the entire prosecution. You'll learn there's not a single part of this case, folks, not a single part that he didn't touch, that he didn't direct, that he didn't orchestrate personally. Every single bit of it has his fingerprints on it. You'll learn that Michael Proctor was a longtime family friend of the Alberts. And he's been disgraced by his own agency, not by us, by the Massachusetts State Police. Investigated, suspended, and fired. The evidence will show that Massachusetts State Police found Michael Proctor guilty of bringing dishonor to the department for his conduct, not in some other case, not in some tangential case, in this case. The investigation of Karen Reed. Conduct that included bias in favor of his friends, the all-powerful Albert family, and bias against my client, Miss Reed, the outsider. Do you have any idea how hard it is for a state trooper to get fired? Well, the evidence is going to show that Michael Proctor earned it. Every bit of it. You'll hear that within hours of a Boston police officer being found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, who had investigated exactly nothing up to this point, right at the beginning, made an early pronouncement that Brian Albert himself was not going to, quote, catch any shit, end quote. And that was for one reason and one reason only. He's a Boston cop. The evidence will show that Michael Proctor made this statement in a text conversation with his high school buddies, a text he never thought would see the light. light of day. Certainly never thought we would get a hold of. And when he thought no one was looking, he actually said the quiet part out loud. He's a cop too. We'll give him a pass. You'll learn that in Michael Proctor's world, rank has its privileges. And the evidence will show that's privileges that you don't get and I don't get. But apparently a Boston police officer, Brian Albert, and his friends, they do get. You'll learn that in Michael Proctor's world, he didn't care about finding the truth. In his world, his priority was to protect the brotherhood, to protect that blue wall, to protect his friends who were at the Albert's house that night. I want to take a step back, if I could, and spend the next few minutes talking a little bit more detail about what the actual facts in this case will show, not based on speculation, not based on surmise, not based on guesswork or conjecture, but the actual true facts that you will learn through the course of this trial. On January 28th, 2022, it was a Friday night. John and Karen had made plans to meet up with friends for drinks. It was a happy and normal night for them. They were affectionate, they were loving, they were in good spirits, nothing out of the ordinary. They started at a local watering hole called C.F. McCarthy's. You've heard that name before and you'll hear it again. And eventually they made their way over to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, another bar where they ended up. When they got to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, the Albert family was already there, already heavily drinking. You'll learn that this was no ordinary family, the Alberts. The Albert family was a well-known Canton family. Some might even describe them as a very powerful Canton family. Brian Albert was there at the Waterfall. You'll hear that he's a longtime Boston police officer. His wife, Nicole Albert, was there with him. His brother, Chris Albert, a powerful Canton politician. He sits on the select board. The select board actually governs the police department, the Canton PD. He was there. His wife, Julie Albert, was there. Their daughter, Caitlin Albert, was there. His sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, was there. Her husband, Matt McCabe, was also there. They were all there drinking before John and before Karen ever arrived. You'll learn that a man by the name of Brian Higgins, also a law enforcement officer and longtime friend, longtime pal of Brian Albert, he was also there. And the two of them, the two Bryans, had been drinking most of the night together. You'll see video footage from the Waterfall, which will show you that Karen and John were happy. They were affectionate. They were caring. They were loving. Just business as usual, out on a date on a Friday night. But that exact same video footage which lead investigator Michael Proctor plainly chose to ignore that video footage. It paints a very different picture of Brian Higgins. You'll learn that Higgins had romantic designs for Karen. That becomes important. Brian Higgins had engaged Karen in flirtatious texts, but days earlier she had put a stop to it. She had ghosted him, in common parlance. In other words, just ignored him. The evidence will show that the first time he saw her and was in her presence after being rejected by her was when she walked into the Waterfall Bar and Grill along with her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. At 11:58 p.m., just minutes before John ultimately arrived at the Albert residence, you'll see a video at the Waterfall of an unsettling interaction, troubling interaction between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe. And unlike the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, in this case, you won't ignore that evidence.
Something I want to share with you. Besides Sam came. It's the Sammy's show. Welcome to each and every one of you. She says hello. You know she can't be up here. I can't be here now without her. So it's the Zelda and Sammy show. But I'm just now reading on X and Twitter that there is one juror who is now laughing a little bit and shaking his head. The laughing juror now looks entertained and is shaking his head up and down as Jackson again tries to get agreement. I think that what that means is in disbelief, and that was reported by Sue at NBC Boston News. And there we go. Oh, here's Boozy. Let's get some good news. Is this about Rafferty, my darling? Tell us. Tell us. Sammy says hi. Forgive me because I have the tickles. No, wait. What is this? Oh, no. Oh my goodness. Do you see how the wheels of justice are turning? You know what this means? Somebody has given her an ultimatum. That's what usually happens. Canton Police Chief Helena Rafferty is gone. Just announced that the Canton Select Board retiring. My darlings, that means she is kaput. That means that somebody told her, you're causing too much liability. Hello, thank you for that great news. That is fantastic. Debbie says, Rafferty retiring. Wowzer, she is a part of the debacle, especially at the Sally Port. That's my friend, Sally Port. Yeah, she's a little backwards sometimes, but we'll get her to come out. With tampering, I say bring them all down. And the biggest crook, Morrissey, he's coming. He's coming. Canadian. Who's the Canadian? There you go. Oh, wow. There we go. That's great news. Thanks for coming in and telling us. These words have been spot on tonight. Spot on. So I'm watching Twitter a bit. Oh, wait. Oh, affair came out just a 0.7 of a second. The word affair. The word affair. So, yeah. It's starting. Whiffen is Canadian. Ian Runkle. Well, it's got to be somebody. The cell phone guy. This is huge. Boozy says, this is huge. I'm so happy for the town and all those folks. I've met so many in town. Here's to hoping we start getting justice. Now, Boozy, tell us now. What happens? Do they have to elect a new chief? How does Canton work? How does Massachusetts work? What happens now? Because one thing I don't want is to get rid of her and then get somebody that's just totally bonkers worse. So who's up for this? Who's up for the spot? Who's up for the spot? Yes, and they will have to start figuring out if they hire within or elsewhere. Well, thank you very much for that, because I'm going to tell you this. I'm sure the select board is going to be put on notice that they better not get anybody in there that's going to be worse than Rafferty, because they won't have it. I can tell you this. And remember, I think it was yesterday or in one of the readings, I basically said, the people are just they're not putting up with it anymore. The community is done. Boozy, more news. Noticeably not in attendance for today's meeting, Chris Albert. AJ gave us a few little stingers in his opening. I just think that this is so important. Full. There we go. I don't think it'll be Yuri. I think that they're going to be very cautious in hiding or hiring someone else. But I'll lay odds that Rafferty was given an ultimatum. This is what happens. A sudden gone, sudden done. Yeah, there we go, Aunt BB2. Chris has to practice his testimony. Black. They've left a black mark on the city of Canton. Let's see what this next word is, and then we'll get back to the live. Sammy's sitting here beating up everybody. Yeah, I doubt they will allow anyone from within. All of the elders are too deep with all of this and more. Yeah, I don't think they're going to allow that. It's going to be new blood. I don't think it'll be female. But, this is the beginning. This is the beginning. Because, Bedrow is after her. And after she made that stupid, pardon me, I just have to say it, after she made that letter, that announcement, I'm going to say the press release, the clock was ticking. The clock was ticking. All right, my darlings, I'll see you on the flip-flop. Let's get AJ back up here.
As the bar was closing around 12 midnight, the Alberts invited everybody back to their house for a get-together to just keep the night going. And you'll learn that Karen and John ultimately pulled up to the house. They got out of the SUV to make sure they had the right address. You see, neither John nor Karen had ever been to 34 Fairview. They weren't even sure they were at the right address. And the evidence will establish that John got out of the SUV and went into the house. Let me say that again. The facts unequivocally, the data, the science, the witnesses will all unequivocally establish that John O'Keefe went into the Albert home that night. Eyewitnesses and forensic data will establish that fact. When he didn't come back out, you'll learn that Karen grew increasingly frustrated. She got upset. She was left alone in a car in the cold, in the middle of the night, with the car idling. John had gone into the house. She expected him to come right back out. And when he didn't, seconds turned into minutes, and minutes started to clock away. She left John a voicemail, then another voicemail, voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, text messages. But he was unresponsive. He didn't pick up a single call. He didn't respond to a single text. The longer he didn't respond, the more upset she got. The Commonwealth will intimate, as they already have in their opening statement, that these voicemails are evidence that the two were fighting. The actual evidence in this case, however, will show the exact opposite. You'll hear that Karen was very agitated. You'll hear some voicemails where she's swearing. You'll hear voicemails where she calls him names. There's name calling. But you'll also hear the context of those voicemails. And every single one of them, every single one of those voicemails was left for John after he failed to come back out of the house, after he failed to respond to her voicemails and to her texts. Karen believed John had just left her sitting there, grabbed a beer, was partying with his friends. The evidence will actually show that John and Karen never had a crossword, not a single crossword that entire evening before he left that SUV and went inside the house. And you will learn what Karen had absolutely no way of knowing at the time. It wasn't that he wouldn't respond to her. It's that he couldn't respond to her. And the evidence will show you why. Let's talk about that. We'll introduce you to a doctor named Elizabeth Lopesada, a renowned forensic pathologist, a medical examiner, and a professor at Brown University. She will tell you that the injury to the back of John's head, first of all, was immediately incapacitating. And that has meaning. At the moment he suffered that fatal head injury, he couldn't walk, talk, grab his phone, cry for help, nothing. He was completely incapacitated, completely unconscious from the moment he suffered that injury. He was completely still and incapable of interacting with anyone or anything. But the doctor will tell you something more, and just as important. She'll tell you that John O'Keefe did not suffer from hypothermia, as the Commonwealth will undoubtedly allege. His body showed no signs of it. No frostbite, no cold-induced injuries to his organs, no damage based on cold or frost. Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence will establish that John O'Keefe had to be injured somewhere else, somewhere warmer, and his body had to have been moved out into the cold. And that's where, ultimately at 6 a.m., Karen found him the next morning. You will learn that John did not have a single injury consistent with being hit by a car. Let me say that again. The evidence will establish that John did not suffer a single injury on his body consistent with having been hit by a car. Not one. You'll learn that John's torso, his ribs, his chest, his arms, his hips, his legs, his knees, his ankles, his feet, all of them, no broken bones, no fractures, no contusions, no torn ligaments, no internal injuries, not even a bruise. Nothing consistent with a car accident, despite the Commonwealth's contention that he was slammed into by a 6,000-pound SUV. Not a bruise. Dr. LaPosada will tell you with medical certainty that, in fact, John was not struck by a vehicle. Medically and scientifically, he could not have been struck by a vehicle. Therefore, as I said, there was no collision. She will tell you that the patterned abrasions on John's right arm, the patterned abrasions you see over my left shoulder, they're not the result of being struck by a car or a taillight. You'll take one look at these injuries and you'll agree with Dr. LaPosada. The evidence will show that these injuries are from an animal, like a large dog, like the large dog that was inside the Albert house that night. You'll learn that Brian Albert has actually admitted that his large dog, the family dog, is, quote, not good with strangers. And of course, John, never having been to the house before, was a stranger that night. You'll also learn that oddly, very oddly, after having their family pet for 7 years, a short time after this incident, the Alberts got rid of that dog. They called it rehoming her, but she was gone. Dr. LaPosada will also tell you that the injury to John's head was not the result of falling backward onto a flat lawn, cold or otherwise. Rather, Dr. LaPosada will tell you with medical certainty that the injury pattern to his scalp was produced by an impact from a raised or ledged surface, a surface that does not exist on Brian Albert's front lawn where John was found. The medical evidence will establish no hypothermia, no injuries from a car strike, no collision with a motor vehicle. And forensic analysis of John's cell phone, Mr. Brennan mentioned that in his opening statement. The Commonwealth's own expert will ultimately support the exact facts that I just told you, including the temperature data. John O'Keefe was injured someplace warmer, and he was moved. That alone is reasonable doubt, but there's much more. You'll also learn that there were many people at that after-hours gathering at Brian Albert's house who would have left by the front door just feet from where John O'Keefe's body would have ultimately been, had he actually been there, right after 12:30 a.m., which is what the Commonwealth's claim is. There were nearly a dozen people who walked out that front door directly adjacent to the precise spot where John O'Keefe would have been lying. Not a single person, not one, not a single person saw a 6'2", 216-pound man laying sprawled in the front lawn in dark clothing on a light white dusting of snow. Not one. Then the evidence will also show that every one of those same people drove by that same spot, not walked by it, drove by it to leave the house, and still not one of them saw John laying in the yard when they left between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning. But you know who else you'll find never saw a body on that lawn? The snowplow driver, a completely independent witness charged with plowing the streets in Canton that night. You'll hear that Michael Proctor, oh, he's not done yet, Mr. Proctor.
I want to share something with you. You will be hearing something that AJ says that Melanie kind of giggled and laughed today. And look at this word here. Do you not just love it? These words are crazy. That's right. Arrest them all. Absolutely. I'm going to point it out to you when the time comes. And I think you know all the word that he is about to use, and it has to do with the Sally port. And when we get there, I just wanted to stop just a minute and tell you that these words are off the chain. And I just think that this is fantastic. And I want to thank you, each and every one, for being here. And this is amazing. Grow is what this says. So let's see. Grow, definitely. Let's see what this word says. So I'm trying to find the evidence remaining. Yeah. Trying to find the evidence of what happened there in this one, but I can't find it. Maybe I'll post it. I heard that they actually took the doors, but I don't know. Now, the one thing that he said before, and I didn't get a chance to stop it, is that someone, he alluded to someone seeing John going in the house tonight. Do you remember when I said that there was a woman who saw something? And in one of my readings not long ago, I put in there, Annie Chung was going to be extremely relevant to this case. All right, so let's continue.
You'll hear that Michael Proctor wrote a report where he claimed that Fairview had not been plowed that night. You'll learn that that was completely false. That was a lie. Michael Proctor did not want any more witnesses. He didn't want the truth. And he falsely claimed that the road was never plowed. You'll learn that he wouldn't look for the plow driver, but we did. And we found, and we'll introduce you to, Brian Loughran. He plowed Fairview that night, and what he's going to tell you is that there was no body on that lawn at 2:30 in the morning. You'll learn that Brian Loughran passed by 34 Fairview, traveling right next to Brian Albert's front yard, and at 2:30 a.m., John O'Keefe was not there. But you'll see that the plow driver also provides some other troubling information, troubling testimony for the Commonwealth. You'll learn that after making that pass at 2:30 a.m., he showed up with his plow an hour later. He stopped at the entrance of Fairview. He was looking up Fairview to decide whether or not to plow it, but he saw an obstruction. At 3:30 a.m., he looked down the street, and in the very spot precisely where Karen would later find John's body laying at 6 a.m., there was a car parked in front of it, a Ford Edge. You're going to ask yourself, who's moving a car at 3:30 in the morning into a blizzard on the side of the road? You'll learn that Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, intentionally ignored this fact as well. He did no investigation to find out who owned a Ford Edge. But again, we did. And the evidence will establish that Ford Edge happens to be a favorite model of the Albert family. More than one Albert owned a Ford Edge at the time. You'll learn that those facts will add to the mounting and the overwhelming evidence that there was no collision and John O'Keefe's body was moved onto that lawn. You'll find that this is yet additional reasonable doubt in the case. You'll be introduced to science and physics, even from the Commonwealth's own experts. That science will establish that Karen Reed's SUV was not damaged by hitting a pedestrian, and conversely, John O'Keefe's injuries did not come from being struck by a vehicle. The Commonwealth mentioned triggering events, but what you'll actually learn from the experts, some of them the Commonwealth's own experts, is that a triggering event is not evidence of an accident. It does not evidence a collision. That's why we're here. A collision. And there's no evidence of one. Zero. You'll also find that those exact sort of triggering events that the Commonwealth will rely on are relatively commonplace on Karen's SUV, and none of them are associated with a claim of a collision. Folks, the science will not lie, and the physics cannot lie. And that science will tell you with certainty there was no collision with John O'Keefe. You'll add that to that rising mountain of reasonable doubt. I want to take you back to the night in question, January 29th, for just a few minutes. Remember, Karen had gone home after dropping off John and John walking to the house. While Karen was asleep at home with John's 13-year-old niece, what were the people who had been at Brian Albert's house that night? What were they doing? While she slept, what you'll find and what the evidence will show is that they were extremely busy. You'll learn that after a long night of heavy drinking, Brian Higgins left the Albert residence, but he didn't drive home. Rather, he drove over to the Canton Police Department, where he kept an office at about 1:25 a.m. Not a Canton police officer, but he kept an office there. Why go back to his office at 1:25 a.m.? Why go back to the Canton Police Department at 1:25 in the morning on the night of a blizzard? You'll learn that while there, Higgins made a call at 1:30 a.m. Higgins will later deny that he made that call. You'll find that curious. And his explanation for that late night visit to Canton PD, you'll find that it changes nearly every time he's asked about it. You'll learn that after everyone left Brian Albert's house, Brian Albert actually claimed he had no contact with anybody else except his wife. No contact. Until he woke up the next morning. So he says. Then you'll learn that that too is a complete lie. His phone records establish that he placed a call to none other than Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. shortly after Higgins completed that late night visit over to Canton PD. You'll wonder, what did they possibly need to talk about at 2:22 a.m. that night? The evidence will establish that Brian Albert called Brian Higgins first. Brian Albert then disconnected that call when Higgins didn't answer it. Seconds later, Brian Higgins returned the call. Brian Albert then did answer that call. They spoke for 22 full seconds, had a conversation, then they both hung up their respective phones. You'll learn that when they were asked about these calls and conversations, both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins lied about it. Both of them. They said they never had a call with each other. But then ultimately, when they were confronted with their own cell phone records and they could no longer deny the calls, they were asked independently, explain yourself. And they both came up with the exact same explanation. A butt dial.
I actually thought I heard a couple of growls. So there's some stuff going in here. So I want you to listen intently because there's a part that's coming where AJ says about the Sally port and how he says that it is paranormal. I'm going to tell you where that came from. I was talking to Microdots Richie on X, Twitter, and he had the video up on his Twitter feed. And he said, now this has been some time ago. And he said something about, look at this. And I said, yes, it's the paranormal version where you see people fade in and fade out, because quite frankly, that's what the paranormal looks like. You fade in and you fade out. Now, I'm not going to take credit for that, but I sure did grin, because I'm sure probably Richie or someone else told him that. And I just think that it is hilarious. I still see that Brennan is going to mention something about either you don't have to be psychic to understand, you don't have to be read the card, or it's not in the cards, whatever that is. Farmer, there we go. You don't have to. That tells me that people are watching more so than not. So I love it. And I just think that this is fantastic. I looked for Richie up there and I didn't see him. That doesn't mean he's not there. I looked for him. I know that the man is busy, busy. So Kim says, yes, she caught that as well. So there you go, my darlings. You are the group that's the paranormal group, and we're here for it. So there we go. And you can't tell me that no spirit is there. I know it is. I know there's a lot of energy and a lot of movement there. So there you go. All right, my darlings, farmers market, farmer, 68 degrees here outside. Oh, that sounds beautiful. It's 69 degrees here. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. There we go. All right, my darlings, back to the show.
The evidence will make you question, why did Albert and Higgins speak at 2:22 a.m.? And why did they both try to cover up that phone call? You'll also learn after this incident, and within days of one another, both Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, both police officers, both trained investigators, got rid of their phones. Both of them. And what else you'll learn Brian Albert got rid of? Shortly after this incident, Brian Albert got rid of his house, the whole thing. Just sold it. His childhood home, a home that had been in the Albert family for generations, he literally sold it mere months after this incident. Dog rehomed, phones destroyed, house sold. You'll learn that all these things happened shortly after the incident where John O'Keefe was found unresponsive and dying in Brian Albert's front lawn. And you'll also learn that Michael Proctor looked the other way. He did not investigate any of what I'm telling you. He pre-selected Karen Reed from the start, and he ignored everything and everyone else. Let's get back to what was happening with the others while Karen slept. What you'll learn during this trial is that Brian Albert's sister-in-law, you've heard, according to the Commonwealth's own evidence from a forensic software program called Physical Analyzer made by Celebrite. It's considered the gold standard for forensic tools. You'll learn that a Google search was discovered on Jennifer McCabe's phone. A Google search that Michael Proctor and his investigators never revealed to us, but we found anyway. A Google search that was time-stamped, according to their own data, at 2:27 a.m. 5 minutes after that 2:22 a.m. call that Higgins and Albert denied having. And that Google search on Jennifer McCabe's phone read, Hoslong to die in cold. Hoslong to die in cold. Now, she misspelled the first word. Hos is supposed to be how, but the meaning's the same. How long does it take to die in the cold? Time-stamped 2:27. And then that search was also noted by the same Celebrite program as having been deleted The evidence will force you to ask, why is there a search on her phone? Why is it logged at 2:27 a.m.? When the Commonwealth claims that she first learned of John's death and where his body was hours later at 6 a.m. So what you'll learn is that while Karen slept, here's what was actually happening by some other very busy bees. 1:25 a.m., Brian Higgins makes an unexpected visit to Canton PD. 1:30 a.m., he makes a phone call that he later denies ever making. At 2:22 a.m., Brian Higgins and Brian Albert talk. They both deny and lie about having made that phone call. 2:27 a.m., 5 minutes later, a Google search appears on Jennifer McCabe's phone, Hosslong to die in cold, hours before John's body was ever discovered. A Google search she denies making, and that she later, or at least it was later logged as deleted. Meanwhile, at 2:30 a.m., the plow driver confirms that O'Keefe's body was not on the lawn of Brian Albert's house, not at 2:30 in the morning. And at 3:30 in the morning, that area was obstructed by a Ford Edge like the one the Albert family liked to own. The evidence will show in the meantime, Karen dozed in and out of a fitful sleep for the rest of the night, only to awaken just before 5 a.m. And that's when she realized, in a panic, John had never come home. And you'll see, it wasn't like John to not come home. That morning, you'll see and hear evidence that Karen's emotions had morphed. It'd gone from frustration and anger, which you'll hear in the voicemails, to abject fear. Fear that something bad had happened. The evidence will establish by this time, Karen was panic-stricken. She had a feeling something was very, very wrong. She was unable to get a hold of John. Karen went to go look for him. She got in her Lexus and she backed up to leave her garage at One Meadows. You'll hear a lot about that address, One Meadows. That was John's house where Karen was staying. She backed out of the garage, and during the course of the trial, you'll hear that she actually struck another car with that right rear taillight. During the course of this trial, the Commonwealth is going to desperately claim that Karen Reed's taillight was actually damaged by hitting John O'Keefe. They'll have no evidence of it, mind you, none, but they'll make the claim. We'll show you a video of exactly how that taillight was originally damaged, or exactly what happened at 5:07 in the morning. The facts will show that it was damaged in John's own driveway at 5:07 when Karen backed up and made contact with another car in the driveway. This is 5 hours after she dropped John off and he went into the Albert residence. As a result, the taillight was minimally cracked, but it wasn't completely shattered or damaged or broken. And that's the condition of the SUV when Michael Proctor got a hold of it. That becomes important. You'll hear from an independent police officer, an eyewitness to the damage on that SUV, someone not connected to Michael Proctor or under his control. And he'll tell you that he saw the taillight damaged before it was in Michael Proctor's possession, but it was not completely shattered. And you won't have to speculate how that taillight got cracked originally. You'll see it for yourself. It's on video. You'll learn that part of the reason that Karen's Lexus hit that car at One Meadows is because she backed out looking for him at a time when she was absolutely panic-stricken and grief-stricken. Where was John? Why hadn't he come home? What had happened to him? Is he hurt? Is he passed out somewhere? Her mind was reeling. The evidence will establish she wasn't giving anything away. Everything was on the table. What could have happened to John? You'll learn that when she woke up and he still wasn't home, she was just racking her brain for what could have happened to him. And she was worried about possibly the worst. He'd gotten out of the car. He'd walked to the house. She was confused. And later, when she found him at 6 a.m. on the lawn, where she last saw him going toward the house, her mind started reeling, oh my God, did a plow hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? What could have happened to him? And that video clip that you saw, out of context, when she said the words, he did not look like he was mortally wounded, she's not talking about at midnight. She's talking about at 6 a.m. when she found him. That's what she was talking about. Your job will be to make sure that the evidence isn't presented to you too cute by half. She was saying all those things. Did a plow hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? She was saying that to herself and to other people. And the Commonwealth, very obviously, will try to seize on that panic and twist this into some admission. But here's the actual truth. That's not a confession. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Could a plow have hit him? That's a person trying to make sense of an unexplainable circumstance, a natural concern of a bereaved significant other, a woman desperately trying to piece together what could have happened on this tragic night. John didn't come home. And the evidence will show that Karen Reed never said, I hit him. Never. Not in the background of the 911 recording, not on any dash cam video, not on any audio, not on any police body cam, not to a first responder. It's never mentioned in a single report. It's never reported in a single report from January 29th, not by one person, because it never happened. The evidence will show that there were at least 13 members of law enforcement or first responders and 2 civilian witnesses that were intently focused on what was happening at that scene. They were all over the lawn. They were all over Karen. Officer Sarath, Mullaney, Good, Lank, EMT Nuttall, Flamati, Kelly, Walsh, Woodbury, Whitley, Becker, Robery, McLaughlin, Carrie Roberts, Jennifer McCabe. They were all there watching and listening. On January 29th, when John O'Keefe was found, not one first responder reported having heard Karen Reed say the words, I hit him. Not one. Not one civilian reported having heard Karen Reed say, I hit him. The facts will show that the first time this improved statement was ever claimed to have been made was some 24 hours later by a single EMT in an interview. Now listen to this. In an interview coordinated by a Canton police detective named Kevin Albert.
You go. Now, I want to say thank you so much to Roxy for gifting 5 memberships. Welcome to all 5 members here. And also, she has gifted 5 memberships over on the Fate and Fortune side. Look, Van. So I put a link in the chat if you all want to go over there and hang out, say hello, guests, yes, be my guest, because you just may get a membership, my darlings, over there. And I'm thinking that perhaps Saturday night before we go live here, I may start some membership where I'm reading your cards and that sort of thing. Because with the, it's hard to schedule with the trial and everything else going on. And I do need one day that I can recover. So Sunday is that day for me. But I think Saturday we will start scheduling that to happen. So thank you so much, my darling Roxy, for that. So please consider coming on over to Fate and Fortune, hello, with True Oracle. And you just never know. You may have the luck of the draw. Okay, back to AJ. Oh, one more thing. These little chickens, oops. Hold on. These little chickens that you see there. So there you go, my darlings. Here we go. Let me remove my
Brian Albert's brother. And remember, Chris Albert, the other brother, is a board selectman to whom the Canton Police Department reports. And what's more, you'll learn that Katie McLaughlin, that's the EMT, that's the single EMT, the first person to have claimed to have heard this unrecorded and unreported statement, is years-long, close personal friends with a young woman named Caitlin Albert. You heard that right. It's Brian Albert's daughter. During the course of this trial, you'll become familiar with and you'll realize that the Alberts are indeed a powerful and indeed an influential family, and that will mean something. You'll learn that there are other major problems with the prosecution's case. The evidence will establish that Michael Proctor himself, the lead investigator and architect of this entire case, has a long-standing and personal relationship with the Albert family. Yes, that same Albert family. His sister was close friends with Julie Albert. He personally sat at head tables at weddings or at
Let me know if you can hear me, my darlings. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, good. I just wanted to show you that was Petey with his little mouth open, and little Shaggy was to the left. That's the baby pictures. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Here we go. We're going to add AJ back to the stage. And I'm
at a head table at weddings with the Albert family. He entrusted the Alberts with babysitting his own children. You heard that correctly. And yet he was the lead detective assigned to investigate the circumstances of a Boston police officer laying dead on the Alberts' front lawn. That's not just bias, you'll learn. That's not just coincidence. That, folks, is corruption. And you'll see how far it went. Michael Proctor was alone with all the critical evidence in this case, alone with Karen Reed's phone, alone with John's phone, alone with video footage, alone with the taillight material, alone when he claimed to recover evidence from 34 Fairview. He wrote the search warrants. He transported the evidence. He secured it. He submitted it. He did it all. That's Michael Proctor. And he did it without any reasonable oversight. You'll see during the trial that he intentionally lied and fabricated evidence during the course of this investigation. He lied in reports, warrants, he lied under oath. He lied about the time that he actually secured Karen Reed's vehicle. Why? Why would he lie about that? The evidence will give you the answer. He lied because he did not want it revealed that he had access to that vehicle and he had access to that taillight before any taillight fragments were found at 34 Fairview. Appreciate that. He had access to the vehicle before a single piece of taillight material was ever found at the scene. You'll find that there were two searches. The first and second search found zero, nothing. Nothing around John's body, nothing in the street, not one piece of taillight fragment. But once Michael Proctor had that SUV and had the taillight in his custody and control, suddenly items started magically showing up. And not just a few items, 46 pieces of bright red taillight laying in the snow, supposedly found in the exact same spot that was searched not once, but twice by independent officers. It came up with zero. To be clear, you'll learn that before Michael Proctor had access to that taillight, not a single piece was ever recovered at 34 Fairview. That will become vitally, vitally important. And what about those shards of plastic, by the way? What about this DNA that the Commonwealth mentioned? They're going to try to dazzle you with talk of DNA because it sounds so scientific. DNA was on the taillight, but you'll learn that there was no DNA on the actual shards that they claim came in contact with John's arm. None. There was no blood, no tissue, no skin, no DNA on a single shard of plastic that they claim cut deep abrasions into John's arm, the arm that you saw overhead. The DNA that was actually found, the actual science will show, was found outside of the taillight housing where anyone with access to that vehicle would have touched. And it wasn't just one male's DNA. In that exact same sample, there were 3 men found, John and 2 unidentified males. So unless the Commonwealth is going to shift their theory that that SUV hit 3 men that night, their entire theory falls apart. And speaking of DNA, the evidence will further establish that John O'Keefe's shoe, the one that he was wearing when he was found, was sampled. And that DNA revealed 5, count them, 5 unidentified males. Recall that the evidence will establish independently that John was injured someplace warmer and had to be moved onto that lawn. 5 unidentified males touching that shoe. You'll also learn that you are not the first person, not the first to hear about the Commonwealth's theory of this case, that John was hit by an SUV. That's their theory. The Commonwealth presented this exact same claim to their own medical examiner, a woman by the name of Dr. Irini Scorti-Bello. And you'll learn that after reviewing what's called a law enforcement accident notifier, with law enforcement's theory of the collision written in it, defined in it, after conducting the autopsy herself, after examining John's injuries in detail, she refused to conclude that John's death was a homicide based on the Commonwealth's presentation and their theory. That's right. The Commonwealth's own medical examiner will not deem the manner of death in this case, a homicide. She won't do it. But they're nonetheless back again trying to present the exact same theory to you in this trial. Again, the evidence will show that that is reasonable doubt. Throughout this trial, the Commonwealth will try to convince you of paranormal events, phones calling themselves, messages deleting themselves, Google searches made and then unmade, evidence magically appearing and evidence magically disappearing. But all that smoke and all those mirrors will not ever reach their burden. Because that's what this case is ultimately about. It's about the Commonwealth's burden of proof. You'll learn that during the trial, the Commonwealth bears the highest burden known to our justice system. They must prove every element of every charge beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And you'll learn that moral certainty means the highest level of certainty known in human affairs. It's not a small thing. They're not going to be able to do that. Not when every piece of this case was handled by a disgraced investigator with a motive to protect his friends, not when the physical evidence contradicts their very theory, not when their own medical examiner won't call this case a homicide based on the exact theory that they're presenting to you, not when the conduct of those in the House and the utter lack of investigation speaks volumes about those who actually have something to hide. By the end of this trial, you'll conclude that Karen Reed is not guilty of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. There was no collision. She's the victim of a botched and biased and corrupted investigation that was never about the truth, folks. It was about preserving loyalty. You'll find that this case is the very definition of reasonable doubt. And at the end of this trial, we'll ask you to return the only verdicts, all 3 of them, that are consistent with the evidence, the science, the truth, and justice. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Folks, why don't we take our morning recess?
Please. First of all, follow me.
Okay, my darlings, what I thought I would do Just let me get this over here. Look better here. What I thought I would do is skip ahead to Alessi, and then we can talk amongst ourselves and do whatever we need to do. So we'll skip ahead. We'll skip away. We'll skip away. Skip away. Let's see what this next word is. Cynthia says, all right, because we all know any one of those jurors who look to seem to favor innocent will be booted. Yeah, that guy, what they said about the one juror that was laughing. Right. And someone saw Carrie Roberts on Twitter tonight talking about Tim Nuttall. Is she allowed to do that? She's a witness. I didn't think she could do that. I am too, Kim. I am too. Yeah. Let's watch Carrie. Karen says, oh boy, impeach her crack. My goodness. Somebody needs to copy that and send that right over. Oh my goodness. Tim Nuttall is the firefighter EMT fellow that took care of John, and he was smacked pretty hard today. If I'm sure we have people watching, and I'm sure that will happen. Wow. It just goes to show you how entitled they all feel. All right, my darlings, let's skip ahead to Carrie. Ah. Here we are, my darlings.
Stand and face the card.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case down here to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. You will keep this.
Kerry.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your
Good afternoon,
Honor.
Ms. Roberts.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to this jury?
Hi, my name is Carrie Roberts.
Ms. Roberts, where do you live?
I live in Canton, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in the area for?
I was raised in the Boston area, North Shore, South Shore. I went to high school in Braintree, and I moved to Canton about 12 years ago.
Do you live alone?
No, I live with my husband and 2 children.
How old are your children presently, this day?
My son is 13, my daughter's 15.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
Without identifying specifically where, can you share with us a little bit about what you do?
I'm an executive assistant, and I've been with my company for 18 years.
Ma'am, if you could just move the microphone just a tiny bit closer. Thank you very much. You have 2 children, you're
Yes.
married,
Yes,
and you live in the area.
yes.
I want you to tell us whether you know a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
Yes, I do.
Would you be willing to share with us when you first met Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, I went to high school with John in Braintree. He played soccer, I played soccer, so we probably hung out in middle school, but we went to 2 different middle schools. And then I hung out with him more in high school. He was a year older than me. His sister was 2 years older than him in school, and his brother was younger. So at some point, I was in high school with each of his siblings.
Did you at some point become friendly with John O'Keefe?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
When his sister Kristen passed away, and then her husband Steve passed away, they lived in my neighborhood. John took over for the children and moved into my neighborhood as well.
When John took in the children, did you offer any assistance or any help to him?
Yes, before John was even going to take over, he was going to potentially move in with his brother-in-law and the children to help out. And then when his brother-in-law passed away unexpectedly, John took over, and I jumped in because I was a friend from high school that he knew, and he had all kinds of people helping, but he sort of said, I'm going to lean on you for right now because I know you best. And I knew his parents and his siblings. And so I introduced him to my husband, and we jumped in. It was, preschool drop-offs, preschool pickups for my son and his son. And just from then until the time of his death, we were just friends, very close friends. And we hung out all the time. The children hung out all the time. And he was the emergency contact list at my children's school to call if something had happened.
Were you close friends before he took over the care of the children?
No, I wasn't very close friends with him then.
Were you close with his family before he took over care of the children?
No.
Did your friendship with him develop after he took care of the children?
Yes.
You mentioned you have a son,
Yes, I do.
and is your son the same age as John's nephew?
Yes.
Was there any common interests or activities that engaged your son with John's nephew?
Well, they went to in-home daycare together. They went to preschool together. They went to pre-K together. And they went to elementary school. They've played baseball together since they were T-ball. My son plays hockey. Patrick tried hockey. He didn't like that. So we spent a lot of time at the baseball fields together.
As you spent a lot of time together and had mutual care of children, did your relationship with him grow closer?
Yes.
And can you share a little bit with the jury how close you became?
Well, John was a bachelor and he didn't have any children of his own. So when he took over for the children, he sort of, leaned on us to kind of guide him and, all the things to do if someone has a headache and, if there's an ear infection or, he had his mom and dad also helping as well, but I was right up the street. So if I would go to BJ's, I would call and say, can I grab you anything? If I would go to Walmart, any of the places I would go, I would call and say, do you need anything? Can I help you? Can I grab something for you? And he did the same. We just sort of all chipped in and helped.
As your friendship grew, could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with John?
John and I were very close. We spoke on the phone and hung out. He became very close with my husband as well because he was right down the street. But we just had a friendship, a very close friendship.
Tell us about the day-to-day activities and how you would try to assist John with the children.
Well, John moved across town. I don't remember when. I forget how many. Patrick, I think, was in 5th grade or 4th grade. And I would take him home with me on Wednesdays because John would be working. So it was more of a, if he was at my house and my daughter needed a ride the other side of town, he would take her with him. We were just very close friends. We did a lot together. We would do baseball tournaments together. We would have drinks together. We would, all the things friends do.
As you grew closer to John and helped with the children, did you become closer with his family?
Yes.
And who specifically did you become closer with?
Mrs. O'Keefe and Mr. O'Keefe, his parents, and Paul I would see from time to time, but not a lot. He doesn't live in Canton. But Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe would be there all the time to help as well. And Mr. O'Keefe would take my son and Patrick, the nephew, out to Dunkin' Donuts all the time.
Can you tell us a little more about the collective effort of other people, including his family, helping John raise these children?
There was a lot of us that jumped in to help. It was not just me. There was a lot of Kaylee's friends' parents. that jumped in and helped for Kaylee, his niece, and Patrick. There was a lot of us that helped out with Patrick. All of the community all came together to help him because there was this guy that just lost his sister and brother-in-law, and he stepped in to take care of these two kids, and he didn't really know what he was doing at first, but he got the hang of it pretty quickly.
You have a son that shared a lot of interests with his nephew.
Yes,
He also had a niece.
yes,
Did you spend more time helping with his nephew or with his niece?
with his nephew.
Were there other people in the community you knew of who spent more time helping with his niece?
Yes,
And who was that?
Jen McCabe.
Did you know Jen McCabe?
I had met her once. John got a discount at Reebok, so he would take the kids, well, he would take anyone with kids up with him to get shoes, like sneakers for back to school or whatever. So one day he did take Jen and I up to Reebok, but other than that, I never talked to her on the phone. I never saw her out. Her children are older than mine, so we never really crossed paths.
As it relates to the night of January 29, 2022, how much earlier was it that John took you out with the children and Miss McCabe out with her children to get sneakers? How many years before that?
Years, like 6 or 7 maybe.
And from that time you met Jen McCabe in the years past, did you ever spend time with her again before January 29th, 2022?
No, I did not. I didn't know her.
Were you friends with her?
I was not.
Did you speak on the phone with her?
No, I did not.
So other than that one meeting, you were strangers?
Yep, that was the only time. I knew her. I knew of her. She has 4 girls, but I didn't know her.
At some point, as you were part of John's life, did you learn that he was dating a person by the name of Karen Reed?
Yes, I did.
And do you see that person here in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Could you point her out and describe an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She has a black suit jacket seated at the front table.
When did you first become familiar or know about Miss Reed?
July, I think it was, of 2020. John, we were having people over, and so I invited him, and he said, I'm going to bring Karen over. And I was like, I don't know who that is, but okay. He assumed I knew because he had been dating her for a little bit, but it was COVID, so we didn't see him very often during that time. So Karen came over that night.
This is early 2020?
I think it was summer, so I think it was around June or July.
Briefly, just tell us a little bit about where and the circumstances of meeting John and Karen for the first time.
They came over to my house and we hung out on the back porch, had some drinks. There was music, kids were around. Just a nice, normal summer night. We had other people over as well.
Over the next coming months, did you become more familiar with the defendant?
Yes,
Did you see her more often?
yes.
And could you generally describe for the jury how you learned more of her and saw her more often?
She would take care of the kids a lot. Mainly, well, not mainly Patrick, but not mainly Kaylee either. She helped out a lot with the kids. So if we were at baseball, she would come to all the baseball games, or she would drop off or pick up my son or Patrick if they were going to the golf course or the driving range.
Would you see her during events with your son and John's nephew?
Yes, we did baseball tournaments and
So when
things
you
like
go to baseball tournaments, would that be away, an overnight type trip?
one of them was down the Cape.
How often would you spend time with John and the defendant?
Not that often together, but John would stop by himself. My husband would go out more with John, but I didn't spend much time with the two of them, not a lot of time outside of the baseball field.
Did you become friends with the defendant?
We were friendly.
Did you ever spend time alone to go out or socialize?
I did not.
Would you see her when you would pick up or drop off kids, or she would pick up or drop off kids?
Yes.
Did you ever speak to her on the phone?
Yes.
In relation to what?
Corresponding with the kids, pick up, drop off, mainly Ryan and Patrick, not about Kaylee.
Did you ever spend any important dates or times or holidays with John and Miss Reed?
No.
I want you to take us ahead to January 28th, 2022.
Okay.
On January 28th, 2022, do you remember that day?
Yes.
Generally, what do you remember about the day of January 28th, 2022?
There was a blizzard coming, and it was my daughter's friend's birthday. So we were going to be going out celebrating that night, but we did it on the early side because there was a blizzard coming.
What was your plan for that evening?
We went bowling. We got dinner, then we went bowling, and then I came home because I wanted to be in before the snow started.
Had you communicated in any way with John that day?
Yeah.
My darlings, look at this. That's why I made the key bracelets. He talks about key all the time. And for Carrie Roberts to be testifying, I think she's going to be key. She's just one of them. Okay, let's go back.
Yes. He texted me. My son had had an issue at school. Patrick had been dismissed, I think, for a doctor's appointment. So he did text me to see how my son was doing.
Did you simply text or did you get a chance to speak to him that day?
I believe we just texted.
Did you go out that night after bowling?
No, I did not.
Was your husband home?
Yes,
Did he go out that night?
he did. He went out with John.
And do you know where he was planning on going?
They went to McCarthy's, a bar in Canton Center.
Had you been to McCarthy's before?
Yes.
Can you just briefly describe what McCarthy's is?
It's a restaurant bar. There's a large bar in the middle, the seating on the left and the right. It's right in the center of town.
Do you remember about what time your husband went out?
I do not remember exactly. I don't know if I got home and then he went out, or if he was already gone when I got home. I don't remember, but it was he went out around the same time that I arrived home, which was on the earlier side.
How many times had you been to John's home, would you say, over the past couple of years before this night?
Oh, many.
Many times?
Many times.
Were you familiar with the house and the driveway?
Yes.
May I approach you on it?
Yes.
Should I return to the podium and ask the questions?
You
John?
can ask them from there.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'd ask you to take a look at that photo in front of you. Do you recognize what is in that photo?
That is John's house.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how his house looks?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to move this to evidence, please.
Okay, any objection?
No objection.
Six.
May I publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. You can take it down. I've shown you a second photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes, that's John's driveway.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how John's driveway appears?
Yes, it is.
I'd move that into evidence. No objection.
Okay.
Exhibit 7 so marked.
May I publish?
Yes.
Could. Thank you. I'm showing you a third photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury what's in that photo?
It's the side of John's house looking up from the driveway.
Is there anything you notice on the side of the house?
The lights or the ring camera.
Are you guessing or do you know that's a
No,
ring
I
camera?
know there's one there
And how do you know that?
because I got a ring camera and I could look and see who was at my door. And then he said, "Why didn't you tell me about these things?" So he bought one.
I move to introduce this photo.
Okay,
No objection.
thank you.
Exhibit 8.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts, with the laser pointer, could you just point at the picture and show where the Ring camera is?
On this screen?
Yes, please.
Whichever one you can do.
Okay. Why isn't it working?
Nope.
It's on.
Okay, well, you know what, rather than use the pointer, why don't we can you describe where you see the Ring camera on that picture?
It's in where the two lights are under the top window.
Okay, thank you. We can take that down, please. How many times would you guess you had been over to his house?
I don't know. More than 50,000. I don't even know. A lot. It was weekly.
That night, you told us that your husband went out to meet John at McCarthy's, a bar.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember your husband coming home that night?
Yes.
Do you have any memory of about what time he returned?
I'm guessing, but somewhere around 10:30.
So I'm not going to let you guess. Do you know? Do you have it?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was around 10 or 10:30. I can't be exact.
Did you see him come home?
Yes,
What was the forecast for that night and the next morning?
there was a blizzard coming.
Was that part of the decision-making of going out or staying home?
Yes.
At that time, when your husband came home, did you look outside? Do you have any memory of what the weather looked like around 10:30?
I remember the snow started to fall somewhere around 12 because I remember looking out the window and I could see it starting.
And that was the beginning of the snowfall?
I believe so.
What was the weather out that night?
The weather that night, I think, was fine. It was cold, but it wasn't snowing yet.
I want to move forward ahead. At some point that night, did you go to sleep?
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep through the night, Ms. Roberts?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you wake up?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell us what was the reason that you woke up.
I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Karen Reed.
Were you expecting a call?
No, I was not.
Had you ever received a call at 5 in the morning from Ms. Reed before?
No.
Share with us what happened that morning. What did you hear?
Karen called and the first thing she said was, Carrie, John's dead. And then she hung up. And then,
When she said that, did you have a chance to have a conversation with her?
no, I did not.
Describe her demeanor when she said that.
She was yelling loud enough, my name, I think it was 3 times, it might have been 2. She was yelling loud enough that she woke my husband.
Your husband was sleeping next to you?
Yes, he was.
Was she loud, yelling, screaming?
Yes, she was very loud. She was screaming.
After she said, Carrie, John's dead, did you know what she meant?
No,
And did you say this was around 5:15?
this was at 5. She called me at 5 on the dot.
After she hung up, what did you do?
I was half asleep still. I didn't know what was going on. So I started to get up and I think I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know exactly when because I was like, what? So my husband said, what was that? I said, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. That was Karen. And then I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know if she answered or if she called me back the next time I spoke to her.
After you or she called you again, did you have another discussion or did you hear her say something else the second time you spoke to her?
Yes, the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. Kaylee was home. He would never leave her by herself, and I was not supposed to stay at the house last night. So I think something happened to him.
Did she say anything about drinking?
Yes, she said, we drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night. And I said, okay, where are you now? She said, I'm driving. And I said, you need to go home. Where's Kaylee? And she said, at home. I said, you need to go home and be with Kaylee. She cannot handle this, thinking, her uncle's missing. I said, you're going to get a DUI. You need to go home.
Was there anything else in the conversation that she said to you at that time?
She said, I'm going to drive to your house. Would you drive my car? And I said, yes. So at that point, I started to get dressed. I turned on the automatic car starter so it would warm up. Told my husband, I don't know what's going on. John didn't come home. And so I think my husband tried to call him and I tried to call him. And my husband said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. He's probably on somebody's couch. And I was like, I know, but she's really upset. I'm just going to go. She wants to come here. I'm going to drive her car. And then I went out to my car and sat and waited for her.
When you called John, did you get any response?
No, I did not.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did you make any other phone calls?
I did. When I was in the car, I thought to myself, well, she thinks he got hit by a plow. There was an accident or maybe something happened. They brought him in. And I spoke to the officer who said, no, nothing of that sort. I've been here all night. And then I called the Good Samaritan Hospital and Milton Hospital to see if they had anybody that was taken in an accident.
When you called the police to look for Mr. O'Keefe, did you call 911?
No, I called the non-emergency line.
Do you know if that call was recorded?
I believe so.
I'd like to introduce an exhibit.
Okay. Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Hello again, my darlings. I'm eating a piece of chocolate behind the scenes just to come in and give you a little commentary. This just totally is rehearsed. And I'm going to also say reversed. She has gone backwards on this, my darling. And I just want you to know that this doesn't look right. Now, I'm also going to say that there are people watching the jury very, very closely for any type of, are they laughing? Are they crying? Are they rolling their eyes? Are they giving any type of emotional reactions to any of this? They will know who in the jury is favoring AJ and who in the jury is favoring Brennan. Although at this point, I can't see how anyone does. I can tell you this. But this seems to be like, and look at the words. This was her friend. Let's just say technically this is John's spirit. He knows. He knows. He knows. Kelly says, I can't wait for the Carrie's cross-examine because since there's new text coming in between her and Jen, AJ is going to roast her. Oh, she is. And Boozy says, juries can sniff out inauthenticity too. They sure can. Sure can. That is, wait till she gets crossed. I can't wait. This is going to be fantastic. So I want to take a break for a minute. Just have everybody heat. Yep, the heat is going to come. If you need to take a break, I can pause this. I can pause it. If you need to take a break, if you need to go to the bathroom, let me know. Because, sometimes we just need to get a drink, Anybody else drink Olipop? Oh my gosh, this stuff is so good. Anyway, if you need a little drink, if you need to go to potty box or any of those things, you're more than welcome to. Translate. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Sue, for hopping over to the fate and fortune side of things. I will be scheduling I think I'm going to have a members only live on the fate and fortune on Saturday before I go live, just so I can read your cards. And it's going to be for members only. I'll be reading your cards. So there we go. Miss Jules, total aside, raised my kids in Esther, New Hampshire, where Peyton Place is supposed to have happened. I love that. I love that movie. Heat is good for my osteoarthritis, but I'm going to tell you, I think they're all going to start feeling the heat. Hello, hello. They are. It's Tequila Tuesday, so maybe I have to make a drink. Okay. Pop it up again. There you go. So, my darlings, Oli Pop is yummy. I make my own ginger ale with apple cider vinegar. Oh, I need the recipe for that. I would love that. You know, my mother used to make homemade root beer. Oh my gosh. And we would hear in the cellar, we didn't have a basement, we had a cellar. We would hear from in the cellar the tops popping because she would put a little extra yeast in it and it was delicious. Thank you, little miss. Thank you. Thank you. Taco Tuesday is for sure. Coffee all the way. Jumping back and forth. Where are you, Kelly? Coffee all the way here. Very good. Let me see. How Zelda, that is a powerhouse Saturday. Yes, it will be a powerhouse because I need one day off where I can just kind of like, right? So if I start an hour early, we can do the membership lives on True Oracle, and then we can swing right over and do our Saturday night show. So we'll just plan on that. We'll just plan on that. So there we go, my darlings. All right. Let me see if there's anything. I drink Evian. I like that too. After seeing her drink Fiji. Oh, Fiji. No Fiji here. Okay, my darlings. So let's continue with Carrie Roberts. Let's continue. Wait a minute. My old neighborhood in Boston, all Irish and Italian, and the neighbors had grapevine and barbershop in the cellar. He would give all the kids Buzz Cats. I love that. Yes, Taurus time. Amen to that, Boozy. Amen. Fresh ginger, honey, seltzer, and apple cider vinegar. Also, homemade egg creams are yummy. I never knew what an egg cream was until I moved to New England. And then I had a cabinet. And I thought I was hot commodity, hot something. So, okay, my darlings, let's continue. Here we go. I'll take me off the
Exhibit 9.
When you called the police, what was your level of worry at that point?
I wasn't super worried. I mean, he didn't come home, but they were out drinking. So I assumed, like my husband said, he's probably on somebody's couch.
The second call you had with Miss Reed, can you describe her demeanor in that second call?
She was frantic. I mean, she couldn't find John, so she was very worried.
How soft or loud was that phone call?
It wasn't as loud as the first one, but it wasn't a regular conversation.
With court's permission, I'd like to play the exhibit of the call.
Okay.
Can't believe that's good.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. We were at Waterfall. And now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't take anybody outside the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
John O'Keefe?
Yeah, he's the Boston cop, and it would be on post, but
No.
he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know, but.
Yeah, but no, we didn't lock anybody up or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow, there at the seven.
He lives on the Meadow, off Pleasant. Okay, and where's the white home you said you got? The
two girls, but yeah, they were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, you know, my husband had been out with him earlier in the night, but then he obviously he came home, and he has custody with me, because nephew put his parents passed away.
Okay.
And so she's home with the week and I go now, and I have to be home. And so she's nervous because she never even happened.
Yeah.
So she's like, I feel like something happened, and I said, okay.
Thank you so much for your generosity, Anne. You are the best. I appreciate that so much. Back to the show.
Okay. Well, so call the area hospital, and nobody got in. I personally think he probably picked him up and he got there. I don't know.
Yeah, where, where did he didn't drive last night?
No.
No. Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by you. She would have to, call in, come to the patient, and talk to us. But I mean, as of right now, it's more, he didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes happen with him?
No, that's why. So he didn't call with me. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I called the area hospital, I said I would call Canton Police just to make sure he didn't get picked up. Like I said, he's not complete about the very old Dutch people. If anybody couldn't pick him up,
Yeah.
please get it off.
Okay.
Again, we're doing our little bit party and stuff.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was stuck here. But we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that. All righty.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, no problem. Good luck.
Okay,
See ya.
thank you, bye-bye.
Were you in your car when you called the police station and the hospitals looking for John?
Yes, it was.
Do you know at that point whether anybody else had called the police station?
No, I don't know.
Do you know at that point if anybody else had called any hospitals?
I don't know.
How long did you wait in your driveway?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe like 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
What were the conditions like out that morning?
It was bad. It was in the middle of a blizzard.
When you were outside in your car in the driveway waiting, describe the lighting conditions for us.
It was still dark out. It was 5 o'clock in the morning and it was snowing. So it was not great.
How was the visibility?
Not great. It was coming down really fast at that point.
You said that night when you went to bed, the snow just started. Had snow accumulated at that point?
No, I don't think so. It was just starting to stick.
I'm sorry, that was the night before, but at this point when you were in the driveway, had the snow accumulated?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many inches it was?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Enough that the plows are out.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did she arrive at your house?
She did not.
What happened?
Again, I don't know if I called her or she called me, but eventually we connected on the phone and she said, I said, where are you? I'm waiting. And she said, I'm at Jen's house. And I said, Jen, who? And she said, McCabe, she's going to drive my car. And I said, okay, well, listen, they don't want cars on the road because it's so bad. I'm already in my car. I'll come there to Jen's house, stay there, and we'll follow each other and we'll go back and drop your car off. Did you look in the house for John? Could he just be in the house, passed out somewhere? And she said, no, she hadn't looked in the house. So I said, okay, now I'm going to come to Jen's. We're going to take the car home, drop it off. We'll check around the house. And then I don't know what the next step at this point was. I just wanted to check the house.
At the time you directed that you were going to meet at Jen McCabe's house and then drive to John's house, was there any suggestion by the defendant where she wanted to go?
I didn't know where Jen's house was. I knew the street. I had dropping Kaylee off or picked her up a few times. So I said, stay on the phone with me so I don't know which house it is. And so when I got there, I pulled in the driveway and there was some conversation about.
Can I back you up and just ask you a little bit about the drive there? I don't mean to interrupt. When you left your house, you talked a little bit about the weather conditions. How long did it take you to get from your home to Jen McCabe's?
Oh, it's quick. Probably 4 minutes.
What was the driving like?
It was not good driving. That's why I didn't want 2 cars on the road.
Did you have any difficulty driving through that storm?
No, I mean, it was treacherous, but I was in 4-wheel drive. I have an SUV.
You mentioned you didn't know exactly where Jen McCabe lived. Had you been there to drop off John's niece before?
Yes, but I didn't know which house it was because when I picked her up before, she was either getting out of the car at the driveway or waiting at the end of the driveway. So I didn't know which house it was.
I think I interrupted you, but were you telling us that as you drove to Jen McCabe's house, you were on a Bluetooth, on an open conversation with her to help with directions?
Yes, Jen and Karen were in Karen's car, and I was on the phone essentially with both of them.
Do you know what type of vehicle the defendant was driving at that time?
A Lexus SUV.
As you drove over to Jen McCabe's home and you had some guidance finding it, did you hear any conversations in that open line with, or even any statements by the defendant?
I remember when I pulled in behind her car in Jen's driveway, and at some point Karen said, my taillight, and I looked, and Jen she must have had the brake done because you could see that there was missing taillight.
When you say missing taillight, was it merely cracked?
No, there was a piece missing.
Could you see that as you were parked right behind the defendant's SUV or Lexus?
She must have been applying the brakes because you could see it, but there was a lot of snow.
When you saw that the taillight had a missing piece, did you say anything?
No,
Did you think anything of it?
no.
How long were you parked behind the defendant's Lexus while it was parked in Ms. McCabe's driveway?
Not long. We were just, I pulled in and then we stopped. And then the next plan, at some point in that conversation as well, or maybe on the ride, because now we're heading to John's house to drop a car off. I pulled out of the driveway, Jen pulled out, and I followed behind all the way to John's house. And at some point, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And I heard Jen say, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's.
Was anything else said about the broken taillight?
No,
You followed Ms. McCabe?
yes,
Where did you go?
to John's house.
Did you arrive?
Yes,
I want to ask you some questions about when you arrived and what you did next.
okay.
When you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's home, you're in 2 separate cars. Who pulled into Mr. O'Keefe's driveway first?
Jen pulled Karen's car in first.
So Ms. McCabe was driving the Lexus
Correct,
and the defendant was in the passenger seat.
yes.
After you both pulled in, tell us what happens next.
We went, I wasn't sure if it was, at some point Karen showed us the taillight up close, but I didn't know if it was when we arrived or when we left. But we went into the house to look for John.
When the Lexus was parked by Ms. McCabe in Mr. O'Keefe's driveway, was it facing the street or facing away?
Facing where the basketball hoop is, not facing the street.
I'd like to approach.
Okay.
Going to show you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, that's John's driveway. That's Karen's car on the left and John's car on the right.
Do you recognize both those cars?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that photo as a fair depiction of his driveway?
Yes,
Do you recognize it as a fair depiction of the motor vehicles?
yes.
Now, when you went there that night and you pulled in behind Ms. McCabe and the defendant, is there any differences between how that area looked when you pulled in as opposed to that photo?
Well, it was the early hours of the morning, so it was dark out and there was much more snow. And there was
Other than
snow
this-
coming down.
I'm so sorry. You want to finish?
Nope.
Other than the snow and the lighting, is there any other differences?
Nope.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
All right. There's no objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection.
Is it 10?
With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Okay.
And to help us understand, you see on the left is the house.
Yes,
There's a motor vehicle in the middle of the driveway, but it's the vehicle to the left.
yes,
And whose vehicle is that?
that's Karen's.
Is that where it was parked that night when you went into the house?
Yes,
In the motor vehicle to the right, you recognize that?
that's John's car or SUV.
Thank you, you can take that down. I'm showing you a second photo.
Okay,
Do you recognize that photo?
yes,
What is it?
it's the back of Karen's car.
Does it look like a fair and accurate depiction of her car as it appeared that morning in the early morning hours to you?
Yes,
Do you notice anything that's distinguished in that photo?
the piece that's missing in the taillight.
Which one?
The right passenger rear.
Do you know when, I'm sorry, do you know when this photo was actually taken?
I do not.
Although you don't know when it was taken, is that a similar depiction to your memory of how it appeared that morning at 5
Yes,
or a little after 5?
yes.
I move to introduce this exhibit.
Okay.
Objection. The court's permission to like to publish.
It's
Yes.
11 somewhere.
We can take that down, please. After you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's house, what was the plan to go inside? What were you looking to do?
To go inside and look and see if he was passed out somewhere.
I'm sorry, but that chick, Isabel, I don't know. Anyway, she's just like Brennan. The last trial, her demeanor was so different, and it was so, I can't even tell you. It was so different and completely different, and it's crazy. It's just crazy. So yeah. So I don't know. I don't trust this. I cannot wait. I don't know who Isabel is, but I can tell you this much. I cannot wait to see AJ come at her tomorrow. I mean, seriously. Bella's mom? Who's Bella's mom? Isabel? Bella? Oh, wow. You guys are okay. You guys can screenshot that if you want to. Wow. That is just wild. See, they're going to try and make Karen look like she is a wild nutcase. It's very sad. Yeah. Okay, back to the show, my darlings. Back to the show. Oh, wait, we've got another word coming up here. Bella's mom is their new motive. That's right. Just wait till Bella's mom has to get up there and the embarrassment of that, because they'll drag her in. This is wild. Timing and fitting, right? They cut the Sullivan sister motive and switched to Bella's mom. I cannot, right? Talk about. Oh my gosh. You guys. Screenshot. Oh my gosh. This is just too wild. Right? Wow. Just wow. Strain. It is a strain on her. This is a strain on her. This is totally, oh my gosh. So we definitely know. We definitely know what's coming. All right, now, my darlings. I have the chills. I have the chills. Boozy says, I am screaming right now. You know, I'm going to tell you guys, I am so glad that you're in here with me because nobody, you see my hands, I'm not manipulating. And I just want to let you know this device is not hooked up to any phone, anything. It is pure binary. Pure binary. Holy moly. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We'll have to save this. Everybody remember it because when it comes time to show Karen, we will definitely do that. Whoa. That is just wild. There we go. Zelda, you're his way of seeing his trial. Thank you. Well, you know what? Bless you. I do believe. Oh, I don't know what that meant. Did you see that? Thank you. When? Thank you for saying that. That's very kind. Chills this time. I have chills. Wow. Love is true. John, we love you. Absolutely. Me too. Groovy Cheryl said evil. I want you to know, I don't know why, but the camera is focusing. Do you see that? And the camera will do that when there is something that is here because he's trying to, that's energy. And thank God, wait a minute, I need to plug this in. Thank God. I'm plugging in. That's me moving. Entity. Okay. Would be helpful if I got the right plug, wouldn't it? Months. Yeah. I know. It's been months, hasn't it? Oh, wow. Oh, wow, my guys. Veteran. She is someone they would fight about. Karen was honest about that. Yeah. Yeah. But I think Karen is beautiful. I don't know what this other woman, it's nothing, no shade against her, but I mean, hello, right? Evil entity. There you go. Yep. Just like I said, evil entity. Thank you, Phoebe. Kelly, I want to, but I'm scared to until I get more skilled. What are you scared about, honey? You know what? I got to tell you, these types of things, even this, be cautious. You'll open up a portal if you're not careful. Because here, I've got other things. And you see my background here? That's exactly what it's like. Exactly. So you got to be cautious. You got to be cautious about it. Corruption, absolutely. Months of listening to how it was snowing that night. I think months. Thank you, Karen, for that. Veteran Albert. Uncle Brian and Higgy Baby are veterans. Yeah. Wow. We just said this, right? Brian Albert. Who is the evil entity? I think he's kind of telling us, Kelly, I'm afraid others will try to come forward. Should I be worried about that? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you got to be careful. Just be careful if you're wanting to do that. Yeah. Cent. 50 cent? I don't know. Downloading your app. Don't I need to be more skilled, Zelda? No, but you've got to say the right prayers and you've got to say the right, you can't be scared because these things will kind of talk. I mean, you see it here. You see it here. You know, it's bad. So you have to just be careful because you don't want to involve or invite anyone else with you, Miss Jules. I saw that, but I don't want to put that out there, darling. Karmakazi, you're welcome. If it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. Okay. I was talking about I need to be more skilled first. Honey, that's up to you. Boozy says, I bumped into another Albert brother and their father yesterday. Yikes. The brother gave me a super intimidating look. He was not happy to see me. Well, woofy. That's his problem and not yours, right? His problem. Prayer sending up from Anne. Portraits of Your Mind says they will be wearing alien. That's right. They will be wearing prison stripes so their badges won't be worth a penny when they're probably going. That's right. Don't drop the soap, right? So I feel that. I feel that. Kelly says, I always say who I am inviting and no other energy is allowed, and I banish in the name of Jesus. Yeah, I do that. I do that. You just have to make sure that, you've got a barrier around it and that you close it. There you go. Boozy says, I immediately saged myself when I got home. I think I'd be taking a bath in sage. That's for sure. That's for sure. Hippie says soap on a rope is more helpful. That's right. Sent a monetary unit of the U.S. In fact, they may even be, pardon me, getting ready the penny or the cent. It costs more to make the penny now than what it's worth. I wasn't even in Canton. Whoa. I love my sage. Salt actually works better for me. I'm a salter. Pluto is a planet. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Clap has lots of information. Yeah, there you go. All is good. All is good. So, my darlings, I'll put extra salt on my dinner tonight. There you go. And olive oil. Bless your olive oil before you anoint and before you eat it. According to James chapter 5, bless your olive oil, the oil of our people. There you are. There you are. I always remember your salt recommendation, Groovy. There you go, darling. I didn't know that. Yeah. Olive oil I use that more than holy water because it talks about olive oil in, James, who was the brother of Jesus, talks about that. There you go. I love olive oil. There you go. There you go. There you go. And blood of Jesus, cover me, I say. Yep. I wish more people look into Kevin Clapp's situation. He knows quite a bit more about the players. He sure does. He sure does. What do you say we get back at it, my darlings? Because I don't want to be on too long tonight. I still have some work to do after this and get started in the morning. So there we are. I don't want to miss a thing. So, okay, my darlings, we'll see you. See ya. All right, here we go. Back to Carrie, and I want to see Mr. Alessi. Fire. There we go. Here we are, my darlings.
So we went in through the garage, and I think Jen ran upstairs to Kaylee's bedroom, and I just started looking through the living room. Basement door was locked from the inside, so I knew he wasn't in the basement. And then I checked the other living room. He has a big house. Then I went to the top of the stairs to check his bedroom.
As you looked around, what was your mood?
What was my mood?
Yes, were you calm?
I mean, I was worried. So at this point, Jen had already established that they went to her sister's.
Sustained.
Okay.
Jen had already.
Now, let
Hold
me ask
on,
the question.
Ms.
I'll ask
Roberts.
the question better. My apologies. How many rooms did you look through in John's house?
1, 2, 5 or 6.
Did you see Miss McCabe looking in rooms as well, searching?
She went upstairs when I was looking downstairs.
At some point, as you were looking, did you see the defendant?
Yes,
Was she looking with you?
she was in John's room.
What was she doing?
She was just standing there when I came up to the top of the stairs.
Did she say anything?
No,
Did she do anything?
no,
Was she searching?
I don't know. She was in the room.
What happened next?
At some point, Jen earlier had said,
Well, let's not talk about what was said. Okay. Let's
Well,
just talk about.
the plan
best
at
you
this
can,
point
your-
is
your
to go to
memory of what was
34
done.
Fairview.
Ms. Roberts, I know that I'm just going to ask you to wait for a question
Okay.
because we can only get one person at a time. So next question, Mr. Brennan.
Again, my apologies. And so as you're looking through the house, you don't find John. What happens next?
the plan was to go back to Jen's sister's house.
Who made that plan?
Karen wanted to go back there.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. How did that conversation come up, and share with the jury what was said?
And the car ride to Meadows, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And Jen said, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's. So then Karen said, we need to go back to your sister's. And I said, no, we're going to go to Meadows and we're going to drop the car and we're going to look there. Then we'll go there if we don't find him.
When you were at the house, Meadows, John O'Keefe's house, and you didn't find him, was there any further conversation about what the next steps would be?
I said, let's go. He's not here. But I didn't know where Jen's sister lived. So we got into the car. Jen was in the passenger seat. I was driving my car. Karen was in the back seat.
Did you
And Jen
begin?
was giving directions.
Did you begin your way towards Meadows?
Yes,
And it was Miss McCabe who was giving directions?
yes.
As you began driving to head towards Meadows, in addition to trying to drive, were you doing anything like looking or searching?
Well, yeah, we were looking on both sides of I was looking on both sides of the road in case he was walking home.
Did you see Miss McCabe searching?
Yes, she was looking out as well.
Describe a little detail about what you saw Miss McCabe doing.
She was looking out the window as we were driving. So was I, as I was driving.
And where was the defendant during that time?
She was in the back seat.
Was there any conversation, comments, statements?
Well, she would be in the back seat and then she would be in between Jen and I, in the back seat and then in between Jen and I. She was just very frantic.
Okay. Was she saying anything?
There was conversation on the way there.
Okay. Was she looking as well? Did you see her looking out the windows like you and Jen?
I don't know if she was because she was in the back seat.
As you drove to Meadows, what was the visibility? The same or better or worse?
No, it was poor.
Did you make your way towards Meadows?
I did.
As you finally got to Meadows, was the house on your left side, your side, or on the other side?
Are you talking about Fairview or Meadows?
I'm sorry, Fairview.
Okay. The Fairview house came up on the left-hand side.
Before you got to the house, is there a tree line between that house and the house before it?
Yes. There's a cluster of trees and bushes.
All right, take us back. I want to talk about that morning. As you're driving and approaching Fairview, tell us what you hear, what you see, what's happening.
Jen's giving directions, and it was really bad driving. I was white knuckling because it was getting slippery. Karen wouldn't put on her seatbelt, so because she was in between us again the whole ride, and then sitting back. But she was worried because we weren't finding John.
Were you having words?
Yes.
Tell us.
I said to Jen, where are we heading? And she said, my sister lives on Fairview. And I said, where is that? She said, off of Chapman. I said, oh, okay, near Spring Lane. At some point, Bella's mom came up.
Tell me what that means.
I didn't know who it was, but it was one of Kaylee's friend, Bella's mom. Well, the directions, at some point Karen was talking about Bella's mom to Jen, saying she never liked me. I didn't know who this woman was that they were talking about, but apparently Bella's mom lived near where Jen's sister lived on Fairview.
Did you learn any more about the relevance of Bella's mom?
No. Oh, well, I think John had dated her.
I'm going to allow it.
So as you approached Fairview, tell us what happens.
As we approached Fairview at the house, you mean the house or the street?
Yes, the house.
The house. Jen said, my sister's house is right up here. And I said, okay. And as we approached the house, Karen from the back seat is now screaming, there he is, let me the F out of this car. And she's now kicking the back door to get out.
When you heard the defendant scream, there he is, and started kicking the car door, did you see anything?
I did not.
Did you see anybody?
I did not.
Did you look?
I looked.
Was there anything that impeded your ability to see far?
No, it was just snow.
How far could you see when she was yelling, there he is?
How far could I see?
Yes.
I mean, the visibility wasn't great.
Okay. Was she pointing or giving any direction?
No, she just said, there he is.
Okay. What happens next?
And then I unlocked the car. I looked over, I didn't see anything. And I unlocked it so she could get out of the back seat. I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And then I turned around and watched, and she ran over to a bound of snow.
When she started running, before she got anywhere, did you see anything at that point?
I did not.
Were you looking?
I was looking. She said, there he is. So I'm looking around to see where he is.
And you could see nothing?
I did not.
Did you see her run around or directly?
She ran right over to the mound of snow.
Could you tell what the mound of snow was from the car?
Once she got to it, yes, it was. Once she got to it, you could tell it was a mound of snow that was the length of a body.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Brennan. I need to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please. Regarding.
Let me see if I can find. Thank you, Kelly. I was chewing anyway. Let me find if I can see, because that part's over, but I want to see the part about Alessi. That was wild. Give me a minute. I don't know where we can find it, because that was just unbelievably wild. I don't see it. So Alessi stood up to Beverly, and it was wild. I mean, I wish you could have seen it. It was crazy. Oh yeah. It was on the end of Melanie's stream, but I don't want to. If you want to go to Attorney Melanie's, she's got it at the end of her stream from today. Bev backed down. She went silent. She backed down. He like, hello. We just saw the court TV and it ended. So I don't know. Moan. Yeah, she was moaning all right. I don't know. First of all, what happened to Lori Vallow? Okay, so when I fast forwarded it, they did not, they on court TV, it cut it off. Guilty? Okay, good. Good. So we don't know what her sentencing is yet, do we? Oops, that is Sam, the pasta maker. All right. Guilty. Good. Good. You had water, honey. Oh, long crime. Long crime dings you. Let me try Boston 25, my darlings. Let me try Boston 25. Let me stop sharing that tab and let me go to Boston 25. Let me see if it's on there. Yes, it is. Hello. Okay. Let me do this. Let me see. Let me get it ready for you. Okay, this is about 20 minutes, my darlings. Yep. Oh my gosh, look at this. I asked Sammy if she had water. And look. Water. Yeah, I don't like to I love EDB, but I don't like to stream any ones like that because Okay. John, no, yeah, he's something else. All right, so let me get this to you. You're gonna love this. And here we are, my darling. He loves these cats. Okay. So let me I'll see you in a minute, my darlings. I'll be right back.
And 680. First, Commonwealth's motion to enforce compliance with the court's April 16th, 2025 ARCA discovery order. Mr. Brennan, you said you could be brief on both of these, so I'll hear you.
Your Honor, I'll get right to the point. On the motion for compliance, our position is the defense did not comply with your order. This has been an ongoing issue which relates directly to the credibility of potential ARCA witnesses. This is information based on the history and representations made in this case that we're entitled to. I did note before these were produced that we have watched video footage from unaired video from the documentary. We clearly knew that there were text messages and correspondence beyond what was represented to the court. It is not a surprise that I did receive these lists of text messages and calls after I made those comments. However, there is no text message content. There is 99 texts to Mr. Wolf, 6 texts to Mr. Lenchler. That does not reconcile with the past positions and representations of the defense to this court and to the Commonwealth. In addition, there are a number of phone calls. And those phone calls, again, I would suggest do not reconcile with the past representations. We have 52 minutes of phone calls on 5 calls with the ARCA mainline, 133 minutes, 20 calls with Dr. Wolf, 57 minutes, 23 calls with Dr. Rentschler. I find it difficult to accept that these were all for scheduling purposes. We also had your honor's order, not just for the communications, which are not a complete or a fair production, but there was a order by the court to provide all correspondence, text messages, emails, not just with Attorney Jackson, but with the entire team, including the defendant, Karen Reed, and we have received nothing. This is important because if we look at the first half of ARCA's potential testimony, which is limited to their prior report, we cannot fairly and effectively cross-examine the witnesses until we have the information we're entitled, and that's why I've also asked and suggested that ARCA should be ordered and required to provide that evidence as well, so that we can see what is there. It is concerning that there are this many texts, this many phone calls, and the fact that this is totally in contrast to what was represented in the past. So before there's even a thought of ARCA testifying, I think we're entitled to the full discovery that we asked for, the full discovery that the court has ordered. I don't see anything to do with billing or anything else beyond these text message and phone call logs. I want whatever content is available. I think it's relevant material. It's pursuant to your order, and this is woefully incomplete. Should I dive into the second motion?
Yes.
So I can move quickly. The second motion, part of it is moot in some respects. I won't go through the tortured history of discovery. We've gone through it too many times. We don't have time for it. But inevitably, it is clear that we have played by the rules, met our discovery obligations, and as we stand here now, the defense is proposing new opinions, new testing, and they don't even have the parts of that testing yet. This is 2 weeks into trial after we picked a jury. This is at the time of the opening. It is ambush. It is unfair, and we have no ability at this point to reconcile or deal with new opinions and new information. Importantly, the defense's position is they may or may not have a report by May 1st. Our expert will be testifying somewhere at the beginning or middle of May. He is away. He is not available. And so anything we receive at the beginning of May or end of April, we'll have no opportunity to look at, vet, test, reconcile, or even engage in our own testing. This was my concern all the way back in November. I'm not Nostradamus, but this obviously was something that worried me that actually occurred. And so at this point, it would be fundamentally unfair for the defense to get a benefit for failing to comply with discovery orders by waiting until February to seek permission with ARCA. They could have called any expert, asked for any expert they wanted. They didn't. They chose this method, and this is the consequence of it. And at some point, the defense has to bear the burden of their decisions. We will not have the ability to rush through, have Dr. Rentschler come in days before his testimony, try to reconcile, be inadequate. I've had a brief correspondence with him. It's simply impossible. That's why we suggested, although we certainly didn't want to move the trial date, that was the only remedy if the court was going to allow any new opinions, evidence. I say to the court that they should not be allowed to offer absolutely anything new, not only because they missed the discovery deadline, technical, but the reality is we're all trial lawyers. We've all tried a lot of cases. It would be a disadvantage, fundamentally unfair, and because of their own choosing. And so anything new, we will not be able to reconcile. We would not be able to proceed with our expert in a fair manner. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Alessi, is this you? I'm going to ask you to be as brief as you can be, please.
Your Honor, I understand your request to be as brief as possible, but this is the first opportunity the defense has had to respond to almost every allegation that's been made. We haven't had an opportunity, so I certainly respect the court and what the court's request is, but it is going to take a bit of time to put facts out. And I want to separate two categories that the Commonwealth has conflated. The Commonwealth has conflated the issue of what text messages exist, which text messages don't exist, what's been turned over pursuant to orders. And I would like that to be clear to the court factually, because the Commonwealth has misstated just now 3 times the facts.
So I asked this morning, there were 100 or so texts referenced in the exhibit, whatever was presented by you folks. I asked if Mr. Jackson, if he provided them, because my order was clear, they were to be provided, and he said no. And I asked you at sidebar whether they were deleted, and you said yes, in due course. I have no idea what that means, Mr. Alessi. Why don't you explain that?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to explain. Here's what it means. Like anybody's phone, those text messages are 2 years old. They don't exist.
So can you also tell me, aren't the ABA guidelines the council is supposed to keep everything in a case for 5 or 7 years?
I do not believe that is the ABA rule with regard to experts. I'm unaware
In
of
regard
that.
to your client, and this was in regard to your client's case, right?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear you.
Records kept regard to your client's case, which these are experts that were, I mean, there's 100 text messages leading up to trial when I was told that by you that there was a pause email, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, a bill appeared in July. This shows that's not true, Mr. Alessi.
Your Honor, that was a different question that Your Honor asked me back then. That was about emails. That was not about text messages.
Have emails been provided?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
All emails have been provided. And that is why we are in compliance with all orders. And I will say also with regard to text messages, we have provided pursuant to every order, every single text message that exists. Mr. Brennan just said, I believe there has to be more there. There's not more there, and I don't believe there can be an order of preclusion based upon the speculation of opposing counsel that there must be more. We affirmatively created a document, Your Honor, to be more transparent than the records, where we summarize all of the communications. Yes, we don't have the text of the text messages, but we were completely forthright and set forth every text that was made. Plus, we turned over from Ms. Little, the only other person on the defense team who communicated with ARCA, we turned over her texts and the text of her text messages. There is nothing else in existence to provide. And importantly, the defense was under no order to preserve the text of text messages. And we have never received, as part of discovery in this case from the Commonwealth, any communications between the Commonwealth and its several experts. That has not been what has occurred in this case. But of course, once Your Honor on Friday issued that order to provide everything, we provided everything we can that we had. The bottom line is, Your Honor, we've turned over absolutely everything we have. And in addition to that, we created a document so that it would be easier. We're the one who showed all of these text messages from Mr. Jackson historically. We created that document. There's no basis for a discovery violation. There's no basis for an order violation. We are in full compliance. So that's the prong one, Your Honor. Prong one is what Mr. Brennan has alleged is incorrect, because we turned over, and we did it recently and consistently. We've turned over all emails and Ms. Little's text we provided. There are no text messages in 2024, and there's no order that required those to be preserved. And there is no discovery violation, because we can't be in violation of not turning over something that doesn't exist.
All right, go to the second.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Motion.
The second part of the motion, Your Honor, is the most maddening for the defense. And this is the timeline that I can go through very, very quickly. And essentially, what the Commonwealth just argued is we will be so prejudiced that if we get the work that ARCA is underway, working on, that we will be prejudiced because we won't have enough time to address it. Your Honor, the facts show that the timeline for this has been caused by the Commonwealth, not the defense. And I can do it quickly. July 2024, the first trial concludes. November 2024, 4 months later, the Commonwealth decides to retain Aperture. Their decision to wait 4 months to retain an expert, we're the defense. We defend what the Commonwealth alleges. January 30th, 2025, 2 months after that, and 6 months after the first trial, we get an Aperture letter report that's barely discernible about what they've done. It's a 1 page and 1/4 of conclusions and opinions in outline form. Next, January 31, 2025, we get the initial Aperture 140 slide presentation. January 31st, February 5th, we get the case file. In February of 2000, or February 19th, we finally get the raw images from Aperture in the scans. That's the first time we get raw images and scans. You can't have an expert work on anything until you even get those raw images in scans. We move, and we have a hearing on March 20, 2025 to preclude Dr. Welcher because the slides are so incoherent and the report is so insubstantial. We can't tell what it is their theory is. So then on March 24th, and at that hearing, the Commonwealth agrees to redact and revise that. So we're already into March 20th. The Commonwealth agrees to redact and revise. Your Honor put the defense on a short leash. We accepted it. And by March 24, we receive the PowerPoint that was supposed of the Aperture that was supposed to be have two things happen. It was supposed to be redacted, and there were certain things that were supposed to be changed. What did we get on March 24th? It wasn't redacted, and there were 3 substantive changes to it. The Commonwealth has said twice, including today, there were no substantive changes. There's 3 of them, and to the extent Your Honor wants to hear, I can detail exactly what those changes
So
were.
why don't you highlight them very quickly, because
I
need
will,
to
Your
say
Honor.
something.
I can do it quickly. Thank you for the opportunity. First one, slide 36, they changed the image of 34 Fairview. No small change. 102, they changed the conclusion regarding the time that the taillight was broken. No small change. 123, they changed the image of 34 Fairview. No small change. So we ended up getting those changes, and I want to be clear on the date. That's March 24th. We have a hearing on March 25th. We agreed to provide our response to these revised Aperture documents. Here is the key data point. On March 26th, the defense engages ARCA. Just 2 days after we get the revised PowerPoint with 3 substantive changes. And then we started to respond and provide more information. On March 27th, we responded to the Commonwealth's revised PowerPoint and the Welch report. And then the last 2 items, we renewed our request to preclude Dr. Welcher on Delbert Lanigan grounds. April 1st, and this is another key date, the court decision allowed Dr. Welcher to testify, but also allowed the defense to re-raise objections at trial when Dr. Welcher testified.
Okay, my darlings. Aiden, right? That's wild. So I wanted to just let you know that some of those people, some of those gentlemen in the back there that you see that continue to look up to Alessi, some of those gentlemen are the civil attorneys for Karen. that means the civil attorneys where she can or will sue once this is over. But how did you like the key data points, right? Everything is key. That is just amazing. So, yeah, Google Nest. That's right. So, I wanted to share that with you and just take a minute because I have to with these. But yeah, that is pretty amazing. So, thought I would let you know. So here we go. We're going to go back to Bob. Take it away, Bob.
What does that timeline show? That timeline shows that the Commonwealth took 6 months from the last trial, 6 months, and the defense took merely 2 days after they got the final report of Aperture to retain ARCA. Last point I want to make, Your Honor, is the argument of the Commonwealth that we strategically waited to retain ARCA. Nothing could be further from the truth. As the court knows, and has been the case with this unorthodox situation, ARCA was retained by the U.S. government. They worked pursuant to the U.S. government, and we had to get the permission of the U.S. government to retain ARCA. We moved expeditiously to do that. We got the permission from the government, and as soon as we got the permission from the government, and as soon as we got the final version of Aperture documents, including scans, we put ARCA on it. It has only been since March 24th, not even a month, have we had finally the information from Aperture, which is still inadequate. Our experts still say, with regard to what Aperture did, in some instances, they can't even figure it out because the information is so inadequate. Nonetheless, because of all the considerations we're aware of, we had ARCA proceed forthwith with post haste. And they are working post haste. But, Your Honor, we are the defense. That's where I started. We had to understand as best we could what Aperture did. In conclusion, 2 points. No violation whatsoever on text messages, emails, court orders. All complete, robust compliance. And with regard to the allegation that there was something said, that there's some surprise that there were so many text messages, on June 10th, 2024, and I've got the transcript on an, albeit on an electronic device, right in front of me. I just got to get the passcode. Mr. Jackson read a text message right live that he had with ARCA. He read it, and here's what it said. The court, okay. Mr. Lally, so her issue is that she is available this week, but not next week. So I really need to get her in on Friday. Mr. Jackson.
Hold on. The court reporter can't hear you. She asked you to stop.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Am I going too fast? Yes. Thank you. All righty. Go ahead. Thank you. My apologies. So, Mr. Lally, so her issue is that she is available this week, but not next week. So I really need to get her in on Friday. Mr. Jackson. Dr. Wolf just texted me and said, I presumed you were in court. Give me a call when you're available. The court reporter, I'm getting an interference. Mr. Jackson, I'm so sorry. The court reporter, that's okay. We have been completely transparent that there were text messages as opposed to emails, text messages about scheduling, about other administrative matters. Mr. Brennan is completely free on cross-examination of ARCA to address every one of his speculations, every one of his suspicions, every one of the ghosts that have been created on this topic. He can address them. If he thinks that we're wrong, we're misstating, he's got the opportunity to speak to ARCA and ask those questions. Your Honor, it is improvident to, based upon speculation, preclude the defense from putting in a defense.
I'm not making a conclusion today regarding precluding the defense.
Okay, all right.
All right,
What's next?
so I need you to wrap it up because there's something I want to say.
Certainly, Your Honor. I'm going to wrap it up in 10 seconds. There are no violations of any discovery order, no violations of this court's order. And with regard to the retaining of ARCA, because we're the defense, we acted expeditiously in response to the information we're getting. And this can be tested with ARCA, the statement I'm going to make. To this date, ARCA still has trouble understanding what it is that Aperture did and didn't do, which was the reason for my Dalbert Lanigan motion, but we proceeded nonetheless. Happy to entertain responses to any questions.
All right, no, thank you. All right, so as you all know, I previously, why don't you have a seat, Mr. Alessi?
Thank you, Your Honor.
I previously found and believe Mr. Alessi, when he was talking about the rules of professional conduct, did say, I agree, a violation of Rule 14, but not regarding the rules of conduct. At a prior hearing, I found a violation of the defense's reciprocal discovery obligations. It was clear to me, and I found that it was deliberate. This appears to me, contrary to what you've argued, Mr. Alessi, that this is another violation of my order and of the reciprocal discovery violations. We need to figure all of this out before you're allowed to call these witnesses. So I'm going to have a voir dire hearing this Friday. I know we planned on having the view. I need the ARCA witnesses here Friday morning. So we need a voir dire, if you intend to call them, a voir dire on all of this. And I will be sending an order for production of records. I just need to amend it for ARCA to bring all these items with them. So Friday will be for ARCA for a voir dire hearing in the morning. So we'll see you tomorrow for trial, Friday morning for this.
May I inquire briefly for scheduling purposes?
Yes.
In light of the hearing on Friday, will it still be half a day, or are we expected to call witnesses on Friday?
No, it will be, if we could do, Mr. Alessi, how long do you think this voir dire might take?
I don't have an answer for you, Your Honor, right now, because I got to talk to ARCA and I've got to understand what they have and what they don't have. So I think, in fairness, I think it could take some time.
All right. So no witnesses for Friday, and I think we'll give the jury the day.
And will it be a full day on Thursday?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. So we'll see you then. I will issue an order, hopefully before the close of business today. Jimmy, can you stay and get this out today?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And there you have it, my darlings. What a day. It's been quite crazy. It has been, let me get rid of this here. Let me stop sharing that. It's been quite crazy. It's just been unbelievable. It has just been. So I got to tell you, I think that John said Kitty because of this one. She's been sleeping here. So that's why. So it is very obvious that that the Commonwealth does not like or does not want ARCA. And I believe that the reason that all of this is breaking down so quickly, look at what happened today. Jackson is just blowing witnesses right out of the water. Just wait until he gets a hold of Carrie tomorrow. Can you wait for that? I can't wait. I can't wait. This is very irritating, but I want you to all know that there is a plan, and as a bigger plan, all of this will work out the way that it is supposed to. It will all do that. It will all work out. And I want you to know, right? Groovy Cheryl says round 2 is coming. Absolutely. Absolutely. Round 2 is coming. That is for sure. I'm going to tell you, give it some time. There's a method to their madness. How I feel about things, I feel if they continue on this pathway, there will be an acquittal for sure. I don't even see a mistrial. There for a while, I was a little concerned, but I don't even see a mistrial now because they have, I mean, look at AJ's concise opening. It was this fact, and it spelled out the timeline. It spelled out the timeline perfectly. Hi there, Ruth. Welcome, welcome. There you go, my darling. We're almost ready to say goodnight because I have a lot of work to do. And I've got some readings, some video readings to get out. So I want to just share with you a little bit. If you would like to come on over and get a reading or shop or do any of those wonderful things, you can come on over to trueoracle.com/psychic shop. You can see the bracelets. They're beautiful. They're limited editions. They're gorgeous. They are on the website now. This is mine. And it is charged with all kinds of good grounding. So there we go, my darlings. So yeah, Bev storms off the stage. And thank you for tonight. You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I want to invite you back here tomorrow night at 6:30. We're going to do the same thing, and we're going to continue to do it. So bring your snacks, bring your pillow and your blankie, and we'll be here. In the meantime, I'll be watching tomorrow, and I'll be here too. So just do me a favor, my darlings. Hydrate, take care. Don't allow anything to bother you. It's all going to work out. And the lies will be proven. The lies will be proven. The lies will be proven. Okay, my darling, you got it. I got your email the other day, so thank you. And yeah, I do too, Boozy. I love this. It is so fun. So there we go. We ain't going to quit. No. Bring it. I'm going to tell you, I just do believe that today went so well. We're going to ask if there's one more message that John has for us. One more message, please. One more. If you've got anything more you want to say to us while we're saying goodnight. And that's right. We ain't going to quit. Here we go. Another word is coming. Sprinkle. And that's right. Sprinkle your little fairy dust over the like button, please, and the subscribe button. Thank you for being on both True Oracle and here. Much love to you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. And thanks so much for being accommodating so I can get some Rob list. What was the Rob with 2 B's? ROBB list. That's amazing. Here comes another word too. So we'll wait for that. But thank you so much. And thank you for understanding that I still got to get these things worked out. And I still have to work on my intro because I ain't got no quit either. That's just the way it goes. I ain't got no quit. So there we go. Well, I will see. Is it Rob Alessi? Is Rob with 2 is Rob with 2 B's? It could be. Rob List. I love it. Anyway, whatever it is, thank you so much. We're going to say good night. I have these. Thank you. Maybe. There we go. Sometimes that static gets a little to me. So I want to thank you all for being here. Sammy, thanks you too. And you know what? We're going to see you tomorrow night. Let me take you back to the comments. So thanks again, my darlings. Much love to you. And look at this mean girl, Sammy. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Much love to you. Bye for now. Good night. I'm going to do the Sammy voice. Are you ready? Here we go. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye, darlings.